Adrienne Ann Breitfelder, City Clerk, you are hereby directed to call a special session of the City Council to be, I'm sorry, let me start over. Adrienne Ann Breitfelder, City Clerk, you are hereby directed to call a regular session of the City Council to be held on Monday, May 2nd, 2022 at 6:30 p.m. in the historic Federal Building for the purpose of conducting such business that may properly come before the City Council.
Thank you. Good evening, and welcome to a regular session of the Dubuque City Council for May 2nd, 2022. As a reminder to our participants, you can provide in-person input or virtual audio and written input during the sections of the agenda where public input is accepted. Input options during the live meeting include: in-person attendees may approach the podium when the mayor asks if there is any public input on the item they would like to speak to. Remote attendees can log into GoToMeeting using the login links, phone numbers, and access code that appear on the broadcast and live stream and posted on the front page of the meeting agenda. This option includes audio input and written chat input. If you are participating via computer, indicate which item you would like to speak to in the chat function, or note that you would like to speak during the appropriate section. If you are participating via phone, indicate which item you would like to speak to when phone lines are unmuted. All phone lines will be unmuted during the consent agenda, public hearings, and public input periods, and city staff will determine the speaking order of the participants. All comments, whether in person or virtual, must be accompanied by a name and address. Additionally, written public input is accepted by contacting the City Council directly from the city's webpage at www.cityofdubuque.org/councilcontacts and through the City Clerk's office email at ctyclerk@cityofdubuque.org. This information will be reiterated during the meeting. Attendance for the session is as follows: Mayor Kavanaugh.
Here.
Council members Farber.
Here.
Jones.
Here.
Resnick.
Here.
Roussel.
Here.
Sprank.
Here.
Wethel.
Here.
City Manager Van Milligan.
Here.
City Attorney Brumwell.
Here.
Thank you. And I'd like to begin by announcing a change to tonight's meeting. Presentation number 2, the Foundation for Dubuque Public Schools Distinguished Alumni Award Recognition, is pulled from this meeting and will be rescheduled to a future council meeting. Mayor Kavanaugh, I will turn it over to you for the Pledge of Allegiance.
All right, thank you, Adrienne. I invite all those who are able to please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our first presentation tonight is the COVID-19 update.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. This is Mary Rose Corrigan, Public Health Specialist with the Health Services Department. Can you hear me okay?
We sure can, Mary Rose.
Okay, I'm coming to you from Ames, Iowa, where I am attending the State Public Health Conference. And it's the first time we've had this conference in person since 2019, so happy to be attending. So, next slide, please. Let's start off with our overall EPI curve since March of 2020. You can see on the far right-hand side that there has been an uptick lately in cases. And if we go to the next slide, if we look at just the last month, that rise is more clearly seen, that this increase in cases is being sustained over the last month. Clearly a sign that we don't want to see. Next slide. So we've been reporting our community number of cases on a weekly basis with a 7-day total. And last Wednesday, the total was 66. When I ran the numbers today, we're up at about 109. So we'll see what that total ends up to be on Wednesday, but it's sure to be substantially increased from 66. This is accounting for really a 5-fold reduction in PCR testing, which was done during the Omicron peak in January and February. And we know that many people are using the rapid in-home tests to learn if they're infectious or not. And these are not reflected in these numbers. And that's been the case for several months now. So really, these cases are only an indicator and perhaps the tip of the iceberg for the actual amount of cases in the community. The hospitalizations took a pretty significant jump last week for that 1-day total on Wednesday. And when I checked with the hospitals today, they reported 6 inpatients with COVID. So the next slide. So we continue to see Omicron dominant as the variant that's causing all these cases. And even in Iowa, we are seeing the sublineages of Omicron and subvariants. So BA1 is kind of, which was what started out with the Omicron, is a small number percentage of the variant. And BA2 is making up about nationwide 68% of the circulating virus. And we're also looking at other subvariants, which are all showing up on Iowa's radar sampling of positive tests also. So this continues the Omicron continues to create subvariants as we move forward. Next slide. So we've been using the CDC community level to understand the level of cases and impact on our healthcare system locally. And we are still considered low. This community level takes into account 3 metrics: rate per 100,000 population. And this rate is as of through last Thursday. So this rate of 67.82 will surely go up. And more importantly, it also looks at COVID-19 admissions in the hospital and the number of staffed inpatient beds in use by patients with confirmed COVID-19. So those numbers, gratefully, are still low in Dubuque. You can see that in Iowa, there are a few counties bumping up into the next medium level. So are we still in a pandemic? That's one of the questions I frequently get. The World Health Organization, or WHO, says, yes, we are. And a pandemic is really defined by worldwide spread. And that is definitely still happening, especially if you consider the variants. But there are, other public health experts and community members that say that we're definitely not in the full-blown pandemic situation we were 1 and 2 years ago. And we're moving towards endemic, but the thing that probably keeps us out of a true endemic phase is the lack of ability to predict what the virus is going to do. It's still a little bit unknown. So I don't know that it really matters right at this point, whether we call it a pandemic or it's endemic. I think in some regards it's pretty much endemic, because even those of us who may have been infected can get it again, or if you're vaccinated, you can get it too. And we're learning that, this does produce a less severe infection. So we're still learning as we go. So officially, we're still in a pandemic. Unofficially, it looks like we're moving more and more into that endemic stage. Next slide, please. So who's had COVID, and how do we know what our community rate of infection is? Well, CDC released results of a study that was done from September of 2021 through February of 2022, which included the Omicron surge. And they tested a sampling of people for COVID antibodies, which reveals past infection. So during that time from September through February, the U.S. seroprevalence increased from 33.5% to almost 58%. And the biggest jump came in children, going from 44 or 45% to about 75%. But all the age groups increased in the seroprevalence. So in Iowa, based on the CDC data tracker and the seroprevalence estimates the CDC is doing there, it's estimated that about 70.7% of the population has been infected. But this indicates a high level of infectivity or immunity overall. The only problem is we don't know how long that immunity lasts for sure. So you can go to the next slide. So locally, we still have widely available vaccine through our providers, and the Visiting Nurse Association continues to do walk-in clinics on a regular basis. And if you can't go on Monday or Friday, call ahead and they can probably get you in any other day, along with our retail drugstores and healthcare providers. 64.5% of the county population is fully vaccinated, and about 57% of those fully vaccinated have received one booster. So we're doing pretty good in that category overall. Next slide. But people are kind of wondering, who can get a booster and should I get a booster? So we've gone through two rounds of boostering. You're eligible for one booster if you're 12 years of age and older and you've completed your primary series. You can get another additional booster if you're 50 years and older, or you're 12 years and older and you have moderately or severe immunocompromised situation. And all of these have a few contingencies on them. But what do those things really mean? Next slide, please. So, should I get a booster? First of all, are you eligible? The first one's easy. If you're older than 50 and you got your first booster dose at least 4 months ago, you can get a booster. Or if you're moderately or severely immunocompromised, at least 12 years of age or older, and again, got your first booster at least 4 months ago. Or if you've gotten 2 doses of J&J vaccine at least 4 months ago. Next slide, please. So let's talk a little bit about being immunocompromised, which basically means, are you or someone you live with more likely to get sick? So there's some factors to consider. Again, moderately or severely immunocompromised. You have conditions that could make you more ill from COVID-19, such as respiratory issues or other comorbidity factors that have been listed. Or you're more likely to be exposed to COVID through your job, where you live, or other factors, such as frequent travel or large gatherings. If you're in an area with medium to high COVID-19 community levels, or if someone you live with is unvaccinated. Next slide, please. And finally, can I wait? And if I do, how long? Well, if you've had COVID-19 within the past 3 months, you can really wait until that 3-month period is up from when you contracted COVID-19. So about 90 days past that. If you have a lot of apprehension about getting another booster, or you're thinking you don't want to get a booster now and you want to wait till fall when there may be possible new variants, that's a possibility too. You have to weigh all those things out and how it fits into your lifestyle. Most people, I think the biggest thing to consider is those underlying risk factors you have in your daily lifestyle and what kind of risks you are involved in with your job, who you live with, or where you go. Next slide, please. And another study that came out from the CDC in the last week or so was that during 2021 compared with 2020, 60,000 more people died of COVID-19, which is significant, and it was the 3rd leading cause of death. And COVID, as we know, has helped cause the biggest drop in U.S. life expectancy since World War II, a loss of about 1.8 years from the average American life expectancy in 2020. So this clearly has affected the United States and our communities, and we have to remember that it does indeed cause severe illness and death. Next slide, please. And that's all the prepared information I have for you. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you very much, Mary Rose. Any questions or discussion tonight? Yeah, Ms. Wethel.
Hi, Hi, Mary Rose, Katie Wethel. Just a question on a community education campaign to inform our members of our community about options for treatment. I know nationwide there is a push for both our communities, but also healthcare providers to encourage patients of high risk to come in for treatment, whether that be with antiviral or monoclonal antibody therapy, which are both very widely available here in Dubuque and I think just not talked about enough. So people are home testing, potentially at high risk for more severe illness, even if vaccinated, and they have an option for treatment. And so I'm just wondering if there's any thoughts about trying to get the word out on that more. I personally, at work, am educating patients about it, but that's kind of new to them. So just wondering about your thoughts on that.
Thank you for that, Ms. Weddle. I couldn't agree with you more. It is an unutilized resource we have. One of the reasons I think that may be the case is because these things came out last fall and the supply wasn't plentiful, so they were rather limited in who was eligible for them. And just recently, our incident management team did a survey of healthcare providers and our two pharmacies that have these medications to make sure, number one, that we have an adequate supply. And the two pharmacies are Hardig and Mercy One Pharmacy. And yes, we do indeed have an adequate supply in the community of the antivirals. And then secondly, to see how much or if the healthcare providers were utilizing them. And I think even by asking the question, it became clear that they weren't promoting them. They all said that they had them available, but there wasn't much call for them. And so we're reminding providers that this may have to start with them to suggest to their patients that they could be eligible and that these medications do, in fact, have the ability to lower the severity and length of the illness. So it is somewhat challenging to get the word out. We did have it in our weekly update. I'm not sure if it was last week or the week before, but we can definitely ramp that up somewhat. I think there is, it's even complicated for the providers because there are a number of these antivirals and they all have different potential who they're best for with their patients. And they have to get used to using them. And it's an educational curve for them that we're finding out. But we do need to re-energize that, and we'll continue to do that. We met with the vaccine providers today to see if they've had an uptick in requests for these things. Most reported that they had not, but that doesn't mean we can't do a little bit more in the public information campaign in that regard. So thank you, and we'll keep moving with that, with the antivirals.
Thank you, Mary Rose.
All right, thank you. Any others? Mary Rose, this is Brad. I have a hospitalization question. So, you've mentioned many times before that the hospitalizations are the numbers that we need to be concerned about. Obviously, the numbers of people who are dying as well. And fortunately, at this time, it seems even on places in the East Coast where the numbers have been rising a little bit faster for a little bit longer, it appears that the hospitalization numbers are still pretty low from what I'm seeing in the news. I'm curious, one, if you're seeing the same thing, if that information is accurate. And then my second question is, you mentioned today that the number of hospitalizations has actually gone down from 8 to 6. What number should concern us right now as a community? What number should we be concerned with where we might need to start thinking about, okay, we need to take some measures to try and mitigate whatever we need to do here?
Well, yes, I do have pretty good faith in the numbers that I gave you tonight, because I did check directly with the hospital infection control people, and they told me the number for today. But it does, people move in and out quite a bit. So it does fluctuate. Like I said, last week. At one point, it was 10. We reported 8 on Wednesday. It also includes people who are hospitalized that have COVID, but not as a primary diagnosis, that tested positive after they were admitted or upon admission for something else. And when we talk about what number do we need to be concerned about in the hospital setting, it's a little bit of a moving target because it depends on staff available, which the hospitals continue to have challenges with, but not as significant as they were, say, a year ago. So staffing is one thing. The hospitals have high censuses right now just for a lot of other reasons and illnesses, and they're probably paying catch up on a lot of elective procedures that were postponed. But they're just saying that they're seeing a lot of sick people in general outside of COVID. So they're busy. So we have to factor that in too. I think some of the numbers that were alarming to our incident management team and made us ramp up and have contingency care facilities was when we started getting up into the number of 30-something and 40-something patients in the hospitals. That's when we took action and had a alternative care site available. So we don't have that alternative care site available currently. With our immunization rate, our vaccination rate, and the general seroprevalence immunity level that we've been talking about, that's having a direct impact on the severity of disease and thus the hospitalization. So I don't expect those hospital numbers to rise rapidly. If they do go up, I think it will be gradual, and it will be due to a brand new variant that is much less. The vaccine does not have the ability to control as well. So we will have warning, but as far as a number goes, I really don't want to see those numbers back up into the 30 inpatients or higher as they were.
Okay. One quick follow-up to that. Are you or anybody with the county incident management or anybody like that still in daily contact with the hospitals, or is this something that we're just checking in once a week, or how is that working now? Because I do know, staffing is still a significant challenge, and I don't think that's just for our hospitals, but it's also for hospitals regionally. It's difficult for different reasons than it was a year ago, but it's still very challenging. So I'm just curious how often that contact's taking place.
Well, when we were getting daily updates, it was directly through the state reporting system. Of the hospitals had to report in their numbers daily to a web-based system, and then those numbers were reported back to public health. Since when the governor and the state discontinued the emergency proclamation, that requirement went away. And so now the hospitals report directly to the federal government on a much less frequent basis. So how often are we talking to the hospitals? Officially, once a week. However, today, I sent an email, I picked up the phone and got the number. It's obtainable very readily because we have the correct contacts at each hospital, and they know to let us know when it's looking like things are building up and they might be having to do different strategies in order to see all the COVID patients. So we're in regular contact with them, and I would say that the hospital reps are, we meet with them in several different groups. One is the hospital group, but there are others they're on, like the vaccine group that we meet with. So I feel confident that we have good communication with the hospitals.
Okay. Thank you for that information. Any others? All right, Mary Rose, I think we are done with our questions, so thank you very much again for your presentation.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, Adrian?
Since presentation number 2 was removed from this meeting, we'll move on to our third presentation, the Iowa Association of Professional Fire Chiefs Waldorf University Award Scholarship.
All right. And I'm trying to see who we have presenting this tonight. I'm sorry. Oh, Chief Mosh, come on up.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council members, City Manager Mike Van Milligan. My name is Cal Mach, and I'm the interim fire chief of the Dubuque Fire Department. After 39 years, I find myself in this position for 2 short months, but I'm glad to be doing it. So I'm proud to be here tonight to be presenting this to, representing this to Lieutenant Jesse Colson. It's the Iowa Association of Professional Fire Chiefs Waldorf University Award Scholarship. Earlier this spring, this award was presented to Lieutenant Jesse Colson of the Dubuque Fire Department. Lieutenant Jesse Colson was chosen from applicants from across the state in winning this scholarship. According to scholarship panelist Fire Chief Jared Wellick from Newton, the competition produced excellent applicants. The first round of reviews reduced the field to 5 finalists. Any of those finalists would have been an excellent choice for the scholarship, and the competition was extremely close again this year. John Kramer, Chief of the Iowa Fire Service Training Bureau and scholarship panelists, added the competition was very close again this year, and choosing the winner was extremely difficult. All the finalists should be very proud of their efforts. The scholarship was renamed this year in the honor of Clinton firefighter Lieutenant Eric Hosett, who was killed in the line of duty in January of 2019 during a fire in a grain bin. Lieutenant Hosett was also the chief in the Charlotte Fire Department, Charlotte, Iowa. Waldorf University and the Iowa Association of Professional Fire Chiefs renamed the scholarship to honor Lieutenant Hosett, who is also a Waldorf University graduate. This scholarship provides funding for an online program at Waldorf University and is intended to promote higher education for Iowa's fire service members. The scholarship provides 60 credit hours or 24 months of classes, whichever comes first. The potential value of the scholarship is valued at more than $17,500. The scholarship is awarded annually, and this is the 11th scholarship to be awarded. Captain Phil Arnstorff also received this award a few years ago. So I think this is money well spent on their part. Anybody that knows Jesse, anything that he learns, he gives back to all of us. Case in point, on a personal note, my daughter is in the recruit class right now, and she wouldn't be there if it wasn't for Jesse. So thanks, Jesse. And so I guess now I present this. Jesse, if you'd like to come up.
Lieutenant Colson, if you have anything you'd like to say, I'll give you the floor. Not to put you on the spot.
Just feel very honored to get it. I will make good use of this and do what I can to pass it on to whoever comes after or before they're here now.
Well, thank you and congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
If I could just make a comment about Lieutenant Colson. When he was a probationary firefighter, electric cars were just becoming a thing, and just barely a thing. But they pose some different fire suppression and rescue tactic needs than internal combustion cars. And Jesse researched it in depth, came to me one day and said, hey, could I do a class on this internally in the fire department? And the answer was, of course. And he did it, and it was great. In fact, it was so great, I was on I was the vice president of the Iowa Emergency Medical Services Association, and at our fall conference, which is the biggest conference in Iowa every year, Jesse Colson presented on electric car hazards for emergency medical services. This is a guy that has been on the fire department and been in the fire service for 15 minutes, and he's presenting to a global conference like that. So congratulations, Jesse. And that was just the beginning.
Yeah, great. Congratulations. Thank you. All right, Adrian.
We'll move on to proclamations. Our first proclamation is Mental Health Month.
All right, and I believe we have Diane Heiken here with us this evening to accept this proclamation. Yeah, come on up. Give you a chance to say a few words if you have anything you'd like to say before I read it.
Okay, just very briefly. My name is Diane Heiken, and on behalf of Mental Health America of Dubuque County, I want to express gratitude to our city leaders for acknowledging the importance of brain health in Dubuque. And really, your support helps us to be able to make connections and have discussions about brain health in open forums, which is really very important. So thank you for this support.
Well, thank you so much for being here to accept this proclamation tonight. City of Dubuque proclamation. Whereas for over 60 years, Mental Health America has brought together mental health providers, consumers, family members, advocates, and concerned residents to serve as an effective voice for mental health in this area. And whereas mental health is essential to everyone's overall health and well-being. And whereas everyone experiences times of difficulty and stress in their lives. And whereas prevention is an effective way to reduce the burden of mental health conditions. And whereas there is a strong body of research that supports specific tools that everyone can use to better handle challenges and protect their health and well-being. And whereas mental health conditions are real and prevalent in our nation. And whereas with early and effective treatment, those individuals with mental health conditions can recover and lead full, productive lives. And whereas each business, school, government, agency, healthcare provider, organization, and resident shares the burden of mental health problems and has a responsibility to promote mental health wellness and support prevention efforts. Now, therefore, I, Brad M. Kavanaugh, Mayor of the City of Dubuque, Iowa, on behalf of the City Council, staff, and residents of Dubuque, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2022 as Mental Health Month in the City of Dubuque, Iowa, and encourage the residents, government agencies, public and private institutions, businesses, and schools in Dubuque to recommit our community to increasing awareness and understanding of mental health, the steps our residents can take to protect their mental health, and the need for appropriate and accessible services for all people with mental health conditions. You can come on. Thank you very much. Adrian?
Our second proclamation is Preservation Month.
All right, do we have Bill Doyle here with us?
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm Bill Doyle. I've served as chair of the Historic Preservation Commission for the past year and a half or so. Just want to thank City Council, City Manager Van Milligan, Mayor Kavanaugh for supporting preservation of Dubuque. Got a lot of great old buildings here and a lot of work to do, so we need your help. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much for being here tonight, Bill, to accept this proclamation. City of Dubuque proclamation. Whereas historic preservation is an effective tool for creating sustainable communities, managing growth, revitalizing neighborhoods, fostering local pride, and maintaining community character while enhancing livability. And whereas historic preservation is relevant for communities across the nation, both urban and rural, and for residents of all ages, all walks of life, and all ethnic backgrounds. And whereas it is important to celebrate the role of history in our lives and the contributions made by dedicated individuals in helping to preserve the tangible aspects of the heritage that has shaped us as a people. And whereas the city honors preservation efforts annually through the Ken Kringle Historic Preservation Awards in partnership with the Dubuque County Historic Preservation Commission and Dubuque Main Street, taking place on May 3rd this year. And whereas Preservation Month, sponsored by the City of Dubuque Historic Preservation Commission, is an opportunity for the community to appreciate and enhance the history and architecture that is significant to our community's past and future. Now, therefore, I, Brad M. Kavanaugh, Mayor of the City of Dubuque, Iowa, on behalf of the City Council, staff, and residents of Dubuque, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2022 as Preservation Month in the City of Dubuque, calling upon our residents to join fellow residents across the United States in recognizing and participating in this special observance. Thanks, Bill.
Our third proclamation is Dubuque Noon Lions Club 100th Anniversary Week.
All right, Nelson Clavitter, coming to you this time.
Well, Mayor Kavanaugh, City Council members, Mr. Van Milligan, on behalf of the membership of the Dubuque Noon Lions Club, we want to thank you for recognizing 100 years of service to our community. The Lions Club is primarily focused on assisting in the area of vision, both through screening and through the recycling of hearing aids and eyeglasses. And we have screened over 23,000 preschool children and have made referrals in over 1,000 incidents for children that need assistance with their eyes. So again, on behalf of all of the members of the Dubuque Noon Lions Club, we want to thank you for this recognition.
Well, thank you very much for all the work you do in the community and for being here tonight to accept this proclamation. City of Dubuque proclamation. Whereas the Dubuque Noon Lions Club is celebrating 100 years of service to the Dubuque community, the state of Iowa, and the worldwide community. And whereas the Dubuque Noon Lions Club is a charitable organization working primarily to improve the lives of visually and hearing impaired residents. And whereas the Dubuque Noon Lions Club, during its 100 years of existence in Dubuque, has helped many thousands of Dubuque residents by means of providing eye exams, glasses, hearing aids, white canes, and more. And whereas, by reason of the above and foregoing, the residents of Dubuque have benefited tremendously from countless volunteer hours donated by members of the Dubuque Noon Lions Club. Now, therefore, I, Brad M. Kavanaugh, Mayor of the City of Dubuque, Iowa, on behalf of the City Council, staff, and residents of Dubuque, do hereby proclaim the week of May 1st through May 7th, 2022, as Dubuque Noon Lions Club 100th Anniversary Week in the City of Dubuque, Iowa, and urge all residents to continue their support of the Dubuque Noon Lions Club in its efforts to serve the needs of this community.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Have a good one.
Mr. Mayor, there are a few lions in the room. Would you all like to stand up and take a bow? Because you all matter and make a difference in this community.
Thank you, Mr. Jones.
Thank you.
All right, Adrian.
Our final proclamation is Public Service Recognition Week.
All right. And I see we have a member of the Employee Recognition Committee here.
And that is Assistant City Manager Corey Burbach, who's going to participating virtually, and she'll be accepting the proclamation.
Okay, thank you very much. Does Corey have anything to say? Corey?
I do, real briefly.
Yes,
Thank
please
you, Mayor.
do.
Great. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for celebrating Public Service Recognition Week with me tonight. I'd encourage you and all of our members of the public who are listening to check in on our social media this week so you can see the story of some of our staff that work behind the scenes and don't always get to see their face out there. So I'd like to recognize them. I would like to take this opportunity to recognize all public servants in the community at all levels of government. But specifically tonight, obviously, I have a soft spot for all of my coworkers at the City of Dubuque. And I want to thank them for all the work they do to protect our community and create a community that I personally love to call home. So I am really part of a very special team. And Mr. Mayor, I thank you for recognizing them tonight. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Corey, and obviously, thank you to everybody who is serving the public here in the City of Dubuque and everyone who works for the City of Dubuque. And thank you for making sure that we recognize that. I think it's important that we take a moment to see all the people that are doing this great work that make this place such a great place to call home. So, City of Dubuque proclamation. Whereas Americans, including the nearly 60,000 residents of Dubuque, are served every single day by public servants at the federal, state, county, and city levels. These unsung heroes do the work that keeps our community and nation working, work that has increased in scope, stress, and complexity amidst the last 2 years in a global pandemic. And whereas public employees take not only jobs, but oaths to serve their communities. And whereas many public servants, including police officers, healthcare professionals, code enforcement officials, and others, risk their lives each day in service to their communities. And whereas, day in and day out, all city staff provide diverse services to create a more viable, livable, equitable, and resilient community. And whereas, public service employees in Dubuque are composed of many individuals respected for their ability, professionalism, and commitment to doing the best job possible. Now, therefore, I, Brad M. Kavanaugh, Mayor of the City of Dubuque, Iowa, on behalf of the City Council, staff, and residents of Dubuque, do hereby proclaim the week of May 1st through the 7th, 2022, as Public Service Recognition Week in the City of Dubuque, Iowa.
All right, well, I'm a poor substitute for Corey Burbach, but I'll accept it.
We can all agree, but yes, thank you very much. All right, thank you, everyone. Adrian.
We will move on to consent items. At this time, anyone participating in the meeting in person who would like to discuss one of the consent items, please approach the podium when the mayor asks if there is any in-person input and state your name and address. For all remote attendees, please enter your name and address in the chat function or state your name and address over the phone when the mayor asks if there is any virtual input. If more than one participant would like to speak, then city staff will determine the speaking order of the participants. Please state the item you would like removed from the consent agenda for separate discussion and consideration. And consent items can be found on pages 2 through 5 of the agenda.
Thank you, Adrian. Do we have anyone in chambers who would like any of the consent items removed for separate discussion at this time? Seeing no one, do we have anyone virtually?
There is no one in the meeting chat and no emails received.
All right, thank you, Adrian. I'll bring it back to the table then.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Resnick?
I move to receive and file the documents, adopt the resolutions, and deal with the consent items as recommended.
Second by Jones.
Got a motion by Mr. Resnick and a second by Mr. Jones. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Jones?
Aye.
Farber?
Aye.
Resnick?
Aye.
Kavanaugh?
Aye.
Wethel?
Aye.
Roussel?
Aye.
Sprank?
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
We will move on to items set for public hearing, and we have one Jewel, Iowa Department of Transportation's consolidated funding application for June 6th, 2022.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Roussel?
I move to receive and file, adopt the resolution, and set the public hearing for June 6th.
Second by Sprank.
Got a motion by Ms. Roussel and a second by Mr. Sprank. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Jones?
Aye.
Farber?
Aye.
Resnick?
Aye.
Kavanaugh?
Aye.
Wethel?
Aye.
Roussel?
Aye.
Sprank?
It passes 7-0.
We'll move on to boards and commissions. We have boards and commissions appointment for the Zoning Advisory Commission.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Jones.
I move that we appoint Ike Sweet to the unexpired term through July 1st, 2024 in the Zoning Advisory Commission.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Jones and a second by Ms. Roussel. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Jones?
Aye.
Farber?
Aye.
Resnick?
Aye.
Kavanaugh?
Aye.
Wethel?
Aye.
Roussel?
Aye.
Sprank?
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0. Ike Sweet is appointed to the term through July 1st, 2024 on the Zoning Advisory Commission.
We will move on to public hearings. At this time, anyone participating in the meeting in person who would like to discuss one of the public hearing items, please plan to approach the podium when the mayor asks if there is any in-person input for the public hearing you would like to speak to. For all remote attendees, please enter your name and address in the chat function and state your question, or state your name and address over the phone when the mayor asks if there is any virtual input for the public hearing you would like to speak to. If more than one participant would like to speak, then city staff will determine the speaking order of the participants. Public hearing number 1 is resolution of approval for the proposed amended and restated urban renewal plan for the Greater Downtown Urban Renewal District, version 2022.3.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Resnick.
I move to receive and file and adopt the resolution.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Resnick, second by Ms. Roussel. Mike, please.
Thank you. City Manager Mike Van Milligan. Economic Development Director Jill Connors is recommending City Council adopt the resolution approving the amended and restated Urban Renewal Plan version 2022.3 for the Greater Downtown Urban Renewal District by adding a project to the public purpose activities, specifically settling remediation throughout the Mystique Community Ice Center. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request Mayor and City Council approval.
Thank you, Mike. We are in a public hearing to consider City Council adopt a resolution approving the amended and restated Urban Renewal Plan, version 2022.3, for the Greater Downtown Urban Renewal District. Do we have anyone in chambers who would like to address the council on this item? Seeing no one, do we have anyone virtually?
No virtual input.
All right, thank you, Adrian. Bring it back to the table then for any discussion. Seeing none. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Jones?
Aye.
Farber?
Aye.
Resnick?
Aye.
Kavanaugh?
Aye.
Wethel?
Aye.
Roussel?
Aye.
Sprank?
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Public hearing number 2 is B Branch Stormwater Pumping Station Project, Phase 5 of the B Branch Watershed Flood Mitigation Project.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Sprank.
I motion that we receive and file and adopt the resolution.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Sprank, second by Mr. Jones. Mike, please.
Thank you. City Manager Mike Van Milligan. City Engineer Gus Zahoyas is recommending City Council approve the plans, specifications, form of contract, and estimated cost in the amount of $15,790,000 for the B Branch Stormwater Pumping Station Project through the adoption of the resolution. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request mayor and city council approval.
Thank you, Mike. We are in a public hearing to consider city council approval of the plans, specifications, form of contract, and estimated cost for the B Branch Stormwater Pumping Station project. Do we have anyone in the council chambers to address us on this item? Seeing no one, anybody virtually?
No virtual input.
All right, back to the table for discussion and questions then.
Mr. Mayor, just a quick comment.
Mr. Jones.
I had a citizen the other day ask, gee, more money for the B Branch? And yeah, but this was planned money from the get-go. These are the pumps that take the stormwater and get it up over the flood wall. And it's important that people understand how important those are. Anytime we button up the flood wall, because the Mississippi River is coming up, every single drop of rainwater, stormwater, whatever that gets splashed down into the streets has to get pumped up and over that structure. So these are incredibly important. These are old pumps, and they're due for replacement. This was part of the original plan that this was going to have to be done. This isn't new money at all. It's just time to do it. So I think it's a big project. It's worthy of that explanation, because some people are having some B Branch fatigue. You shouldn't. There's thousands of homes that don't flood anymore, but some people are.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Yeah, Mr. Sprank.
Thank you. Kind of to echo Mr. Jones's words, a lot of folks don't have water in their basements anymore, so because of the project. So this is just one more piece to this really big puzzle, and I'm glad that we're putting it together. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sprank. Yeah, Ms. Wethel.
I grew up in a home built in 1902, and during years of flood, we had 4 sump pumps in my basement. So I'm well aware of what it was like for my community to deal with the water and honestly, the tax and toll on individual households. So I am very proud to support this. I know it's a lot of money, but it's continued support for a project that works.
Thank you, Ms. Wethel.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, Mr. Resnick.
I appreciate people that don't have problems anymore in their basement. That's great. But it's much bigger than that, isn't it? I mean, the public health problem with constant flooding, especially with mold and other type of things throughout the community is a really big problem. And as Mr. Jones said, this has been planned from the beginning. It's great that we're going to continue this. We appreciate everybody who has come up and really expressed appreciation for all the good work that the engineers and construction people have doing. So let's keep it going, and for many great reasons. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Resnick. And the only thing I would add is that, we do have a helpful memo from the city engineer, Gus Ahoyas, and there's a note on there that this is a 12-phase project. It's always been a 12-phase project. There's a lot going on. But I also noticed that a number of those phases say complete, which is a lot further along than we were a few years ago. So I think we're moving absolutely in the right direction. We're going to keep going on this. This is something that is very necessary. It's very useful. And it serves a great purpose for the community. So I'm looking forward to voting for this. Any other comments? All right. The motion then is to receive and file and adopt the resolution. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Jones.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Public hearing number 3 is Mystique Ice Center Ice Rink Concrete Subfloor Project Public Hearing.
Mr. Mayor.
Oh,
Move to receive and file and adopt the resolution.
Second.
motion by Roussel, second by Resnick. Mike, please.
Thank you. City Manager Mike Van Milligan. Assistant City Engineer Bob Schissel is recommending City Council adopt a resolution approving the plans, specifications, form of contract, and estimated cost for the Mystique Ice Center Rink Concrete Subfloor Project in the amount of $296,510. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request Mayor and City Council approval.
Thank you, Mike. We are in a public hearing to consider City Council adopt a resolution approving the plans, specifications, form of contract, and estimated cost for the Mystique Ice Center Rink Concrete Subfloor Project. Do we have anyone in council chambers to address us on this item? Seeing no one, anyone virtually?
We do not have any virtual input.
Thank you. Back to the table for discussion.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Resnick.
Yes, I see Mr. Schissel is here, so I'm hoping that he might come and talk to us. There's been a recent discussion about consultant services and how much we do, whether they're worthwhile. Could you please talk to us about what the consultant did, added value to this project for $51,000?
Good evening, Bob Schissel,
Assistant City Engineer. The consultant for this project assisted the city in preparing the various performance specifications that we used for this particular project, particularly all the different loading that will be supported by the deep foundation settlement remediation system. So they were a valuable resource in putting all of those performance specifications and requirements together.
Great, thank you for the scope. Now, how long does it take to do that type of thing? Were they here a week or taking measurements or?
Actually, the consultant that's assisting us is WHKS, and they've actually been assisting us on the project for probably 2 years. They've been monitoring the settlement along with us. They've assisted on some of the previous repairs that were done with the bleacher system and so yeah, they've been a long-time partner with us.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any other questions or discussion? Well, we've been talking about this one for the last few meetings, it seems, because it's a big project and we have to keep moving on it. So thank you very much, Bob, for being here tonight. We appreciate it. The motion is to receive and file and adopt the resolution. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Jones.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Public hearing number 4 is proceedings for public hearing on the issuance of not to exceed $1,950,000 sanitary sewer revenue capital loan notes, State of Iowa Water Quality Financing Program.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Resnick.
I move to receive and file and adopt the resolution.
Second.
Motion by Resnick, second by Jones. Mike, please.
Thank you. City Manager Mike Van Milligan. Director of Finance and Budget Jennifer Larson is recommending City Council approval of the suggested proceedings for a public hearing on the issuance of not to exceed $1,950,000 in sanitary sewer revenue capital loan notes, State of Iowa Water Quality Financing Program, the proceeds of which will be used to pay construction costs for the stabilization of approximately 3,000 feet of the city's 42-inch diameter sanitary sewer force main that runs along the main channel of the Mississippi River from Moss Lake to the south. The project includes reconstruction of the river embankment so that there is adequate cover and protection from the river and debris floating along the river. It will also provide protection from river barges that travel up and down the river, sometimes tying off in areas where the existing force main is exposed. Water Quality Finance Program loans have a 2% loan initiation fee, 1% interest rate, and no loan servicing fee, and can be issued as revenue debt. In addition, Water Quality Finance Program loans do not require an environmental review because the program is state-funded. The issuance of State of Iowa Water Quality Financing Program loans instead of state revolving fund loans will save approximately $174,000 over the life of the debt in interest and loan servicing fee cost. Section 384.83 of the Code of Iowa provides that any resident or property owner of the city may appeal the decision to take additional action to the District Court of a county in which any part of the city is located within 15 days after such additional action is taken, but the additional action is final and conclusive unless the court finds that the City Council exceeded its authority. In the event an appeal is filed by any resident or property owner, we will let our bond counsel know as soon as possible. In the event the City Council decides to abandon the proposal, then the form of resolution included in said proceeding should not be adopted. We would suggest that, in this event, a motion merely be adopted to the effect that such proposal is abandoned. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request Mayor and City Council approval.
Thank you, Mike. We are in a public hearing to consider City Council approval of instituting proceedings to take additional action for the authorization of a loan and disbursement agreement and the issuance of not to exceed $1.95 million sewer revenue capital loan notes. Do we have anyone from the public to address us on this item? Anyone virtually?
No virtual input.
All right, back to the table for discussion then. All right. For anyone listening, that's a whole lot of legal speak, I would say, to be able to say that we are putting in motion to be able to pay for a very important project. The one that if you've been on the river on the south side of the Julian Dubuque Bridge, we see that we need to work on shoring up our flood wall and making sure that we're covering our important sewer infrastructure to be able to make it to the Water and Resource Recovery Center. So that's something we've been discussing here. It's a project that we put forward during our budget process, and this is something that we're now moving forward on. So any other discussion before we call the vote? All right, the motion is to receive and file and adopt the resolution. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Jones.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Public hearing number 5 is fiscal year 2022 second budget amendment.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Roussel.
I move to receive and file and adopt the resolution.
Second by Sprang.
Motion by Roussel and a second by Sprank. Mike, please.
Thank you. City Manager Mike Van Milligan. Director of Finance and Budget Jennifer Larson is recommending approval of the second fiscal year 2022 budget amendment, which amends the fiscal year 2022 budget for City Council action since the first amendment to the fiscal year 2022 budget was adopted in September 2021. Adjustments to reflect new grants and reallocation of funding. A decrease of interfund transfers of $3,431,263 is also included. The amendment totals $6,484,238 in increased appropriation authority and an increase in resources of $7,129,164. Additional revenues added in this amendment with offsetting appropriations are Dubuque Industrial Center West General Obligation Bonds for property purchase, Healthy Homes Production Grant, Iowa Economic Development Authority CARES Act Grant, Community Development CARES Act Grant, Iowa SWAP funds for the Northwest Arterial Rehabilitation, AmeriCorps grants, and related private participation, sale of rehabilitated homes housing rehab program, and airport state grant for new hangars. Reduced revenues reflected in this amendment with offsetting reductions in appropriations include Transit Fund Transportation Administration operating assistance, reduced by CARES Act funding, new downtown parking ramp bond proceeds, ramp delayed, dual packer recycling vehicle bond proceeds, truck delayed, high-strength waste receive and storage, SRF proceeds, replaced by American Rescue Plan Act funds, Center Place Alley Sewer Reconstruction SRF proceeds, replaced by American Rescue Plan Act funds, and the Southwest Arterial Water Main Extension Federal Grant. This amendment includes an increase of $728,753 for Community Development Block Grant or CDBG related programs. The increase in CDBG programs include Mount Pleasant Elevator, the Purchase Resale Rehab Program, First Time Homebuyer Program, the Henry Stout Apartments, the Four Mounds Build Dubuque, ANI Agreement, the Low and Moderate Income Parks, Window Replacement Program, Rental and Mortgage Assistance, and Energy Saver Program. Decreases in CDBG programs include rental rehab loans, rental rehab unit, neighborhood-related improvements, St. Mark Community Center, bus stop improvements, community development target area programs, rehab programs, general housing inspection, Race in the Heartland Conference, neighborhood grants, low-income small business grant, sidewalks, credit repair program, and aquaponics systems. This amendment also creates a budget for the Mesquite Community Ice Arena, which includes $632,941 in revenue and $844,900 in expenses. The net deficit of $211,968 is funded by vacancy savings and various leisure services activities. In addition, This amendment adds the Leisure Services Project Manager position for the remainder of the fiscal year, which is also funded by vacancy savings in leisure services activities. The vacancy savings by leisure services activity is as follows: park vacancies, Port of Dubuque Marina vacancies, swimming pool vacancies, and Multicultural Family Center vacancies. American Rescue Plan Act funds, or ARPA, project allocation was revised during the fiscal year 2023 budget process. The reallocations that impact the fiscal year 2022 projects include reduction in funding to the Catfish Creek Lift Station force main, increase in funding to the Old Mill Lift Station, allocation of funding to police patrol vehicles and accessories, allocation of funding to the Grand River Center equipment, and reduction in funding to utility billing assistance. In the First Amendment in fiscal year 2023, so next year, additional amendments will be made to the allocation of American Rescue Plan Act funds. It has been determined that using ARPA funds to purchase tipper carts for the citywide implementation is an allowable expense based on the United States Treasury final rules. However, due to a citizen objection, staff has determined that based on the availability of other funding, the tipper carts will be funded with fiscal year 2022 Dubuque Racing Association rent instead of ARPA funds. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request Mayor and City Council approval.
Thank you, Mike. We are in a public hearing to consider City Council approval of the second fiscal year 2022 budget amendment. Do we have anyone in chambers to address us on this item? Seeing no one, do we have anyone virtually?
No virtual input.
All right. Bring it back to the table for questions and discussion.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Mr. Resnick.
Yes, a question for Mr. Van Milligan. You mentioned that the pool vacancy money will be going to this fund, but that's not why we're closing the pool, right? I just want to make sure that we didn't do this to fund this amendment, but that the reason we're not opening this pool is because of the vacancies. And would you mind, since it's a community concern, could you talk more about why we're not doing Sutton Pool, opening Sutton Pool, and so then we can transfer this and still make this money useful to the city? Please, thank you.
Yes, thank you. Well, my understanding is part of this savings, remember, this is the current fiscal year that you're doing the amendment for, which ends June 30th of 2022, so in the middle of the summer. So part of this savings would have been reflected since July 1st of 2021, where we had some issues with hiring people to staff the pools. And then certainly part of the savings may also be from the current fiscal year at the beginning of this coming summer. But it doesn't affect whether, these dollars don't affect whether we can open both pools or not. What affects it is if we can hire enough people, and you'll recollect that later tonight, there's another agenda item where I'm recommending substantially increasing the wages for seasonal employees in leisure services so that we hopefully can attract enough people to operate the pools. And if we're successful in doing that, we do have sufficient revenue that exceeded our expectations in our utility franchise fees. And so we would be able to afford to completely staff both pools this summer, should we be fortunate enough with the request I'm making to increase the wages that we're offering if we were successful in hiring enough people.
I see Marie waiting in the wings. Is it?
So if you were to refer to, Marie Ware, Leisure Services Manager. If you were to refer to the budget amendment, it outlines a savings from the pools to be able to take care of that expense. That was all done prior to any of the second agenda item you'll consider, which is the wages part. So in both of those memos, the budget amendment as well as the next one with the pool wages, those are two separate amounts of money. So we did the budget amendment information probably a month or month and a half ago. Those were savings from the end of last summer. So that season being done, but it's already in this fiscal year because that's the beginning of the fiscal year. And then secondarily, when you talk about the next agenda item related to the wages, that is another piece of savings. Just so that we're clear, we're using the same line item, but it was two pools of money in the same line item based on the the two calendar year seasons.
Thank you both for the information. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, I think this is an important question. Was that pun intended, two pools of money?
I leave it to you to find those puns as we're sitting here, for sure. Yes, but thank you for pointing out the two pools of money as we talk about two pools. Any other comments, discussion? All right, then the motion is to receive and file and adopt the resolution. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Jones.
Aye.
Farber. Aye. Resnick.
Aye.
Kavanaugh. Aye. Wethel.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
That motion passes 7-0.
Move on to public input. At this time, anyone participating in the meeting may address the City Council on the action items on the agenda or on matters under the control of the City Council. For all in-person attendees, please approach the podium and state your name and address. For all remote attendees, please enter your name and address in the chat function or state your name and address over the phone when the mayor asks if there is any virtual input. If more than one participant would like to speak, then city staff will determine the speaking order of the participants. Individual remarks are limited to 5 minutes, and the overall public input period is limited to 30 minutes. Under the Iowa Open Meetings Law, the City Council can take no formal action on comments given during public input or that do not relate to the action items on the agenda.
All right, thank you, Adrian. Now we have time for public input. I see 8 different action items on here, including 5 flags, which I know is on some of your minds. So if anybody has public input, now is your chance on any of the action items or anything else that might come before the council.
Rod Bakke, 3030 Karen Street in Dubuque. Honorable Mayor, Honorable Council members, Honorable City Manager Mike. I have been on the Five Flags Commission since Fido was a pup. No, 37 years. It's become part of my family, and I'm here simply to thank you for receiving our motion from our meeting last Monday. The unanimous motion passed by our commission. And just to inform you, on the commission, we have some really fine people. Chairperson Tyler Doherty. Tyler, the VP for Community Engagement for Travel Dubuque. He's an excellent leader of our Five Flags Commission. Vice Chair, yours truly, retired from NICC 22 years ago. And back then, when we first started, it was known as Area 1 Vocational Technical School. In the first years of the Five Flags Center, I was busy opening up the new campus out at Piasta for what became known as NICC. And I'll never forget the first day out there when we opened the doors. The only thing I saw in town, 5 cattle in a pasture next to the campus. Now look at it. Fantastic. Continuing on, Bryce Parks, publisher of the Dubuque 365 magazine. I call Bryce the Julian Dubuque of modern Dubuque because he's a walking encyclopedia of everything about the city. Longtime commission member. Next, Mackenzie Blau, an attorney at law, a former chair of the commission, and a brand new member, Brenda Christener. She has returned to Dubuque to be close to her family, really interested in the center, interested in fundraising and promotion. So as I say, I grew up with Five Flags, basically, with my career at NICC. Five Flags is 43 years old, and I've been on the commission for 37 of those years. The fine city councils in the past have reappointed me to the commission. I hope that continues maybe for another couple terms, but I do want you to think of just a few buzzwords that I keep thinking of. Beacon, once the new center hopefully would be completed, it would be a beacon to not only the Dubuque area, but further beyond. One thing I go way back to, you've all heard of the Kennedy brothers. The first political campaign I worked on was for Jack Kennedy up in Wisconsin in 1960. But I recall both brothers, when I would be close to them or in crowds, they would say about an opportunity like the proposed Five Flag Center, some would say, why? Why deal with the opportunity? But there are a lot of people like myself in the city that I hope will say, why not? Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. We appreciate it. Any other public input tonight? Yeah, come on up.
My name is Earl Brimmeyer. I live on the end of Romberg Avenue, last house before Lincoln. I'm a member of the pickleball club here in Dubuque, also known for my interests on the river, canoeing, working with the All Sports Camp. This is the 34th year of the Dragon Boat Festival and so on. But I'm just suggesting perhaps a small, convenient income stream for the Five Flags. I was over there the other day. It's a huge empty building with nothing going on. So I thought, well, hey, why not have the pickleball club put up temporary nets so that they would have an indoor place to play relatively cheap instead of going out to Piazza Recreation Center and playing out there. I'm sure the lights are better here at the hockey rink, but it would be just a quick income stream and it'd make a lot of people really happy because it's really hard to find a decent indoor pickleball club with good lighting in this town right now. So the universities all are busy with their gyms and stuff, and you got to do all this hoop jumping to get in there. The Y has a couple racquetball clubs that they loan out, but I'm not a member of the Y at this time. The court side is gone. That's a consignment store now. So there's not really any good large indoor building where somebody can just walk in, set up a pickleball court here in Dubuque, especially if you're older, and have a lot of fun, socialize. City Leisure Department did a fantastic job with the tennis courts up at Vets. There's 9 courts up there. I drove by today and there was 7 of them were busy already. And as soon as the weather gets nice, they're packed day and night. Also, just add another thing, Eagle Point Park has some outstanding tennis courts up there that nobody uses. I'd like to see half of those turned into pickleball courts. I'll guarantee you'll see a lot more traffic up there. That's my comment. So anyway, I wanted to ask a question about the B branch. So will they be dredging that out for a possible rowing and Dragon Boat course? Any chance? The basin, the 16th Street basin? That would be an ideal situation if they did. Because it's getting kind of tricky to go out on the river every day. We haven't lost anybody yet, but we've had a couple of tip-overs because of all the boat traffic. So, okay. That's my comment. I'm the fun guy. Me and another guy started the Winter Games here in Dubuque about 30 years ago. Holy cow. But this will be the 34th annual Dragon Boat Festival. And we would love to have an indoor place to set up temporary courts just to play pickleball. They have all the stuff already. They take it out to Piasta, and we have to pay $8 a day to go in, and we have to drive out there with the gas the way it is. It would really be nice to have a building here in town. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr.
Appreciate
Brimmer.
it.
We appreciate it. We appreciate your comments and your question. It's all logged now. All right. Other public comment, yeah. See a line forming, so we'll keep it going.
John Pregler, 1525 Pago Court, Dubuque. Mr. Mayor, ladies and gentlemen of the council, city staff, and my fellow Dubuquers. I asked the City Council to set aside the recommendation of the Five Flags Civic Center Commission and define two things before the vote proceeds. First, what does not happen if a yes vote wins? And secondly, and more importantly, what happens next if a no vote wins? I keep hearing people say, put it up for referendum and let the people decide, or put it to a vote and give the people an option. Clearly, we can't put two or more of the four options on a referendum, but voters do need to know what happens if, and likely when, the proceeding or proposed referendum fails. If you proceed with the referendum and a yes vote wins, it is clear we tear down the old Five Flags Arena, minus the theater, and build anew. What is not clear is what impact adding $90 million of new debt to our existing $250 million debt will have on other plans and priorities set by the city for Schmidt Island, Port of Dubuque, a 16th Street park, an ambulance and EMS station based in the First Ward to decrease above average response times, and the development of the Southwest Arterial, and the list goes on. Will all these projects proceed with this council if a yes vote wins? And where will that leave the city debt in 2, 3, or 5 years? At $500 million? And if no vote wins, what are the consequences and what is the course of action for the city council upon that no vote referendum? Do we maintain status quo? Do we conduct another 7 studies over the next 5 years at an additional cost of $250,000? Do we repurpose the arena space for parking, needed city office space, commercial use, or some other use that will fill a current need the city would benefit from? With an overwhelming no vote, the City Council may be forced to explore alternative uses and risk losing the Civic Center altogether. And I don't believe most no voters want that. But if they were forced to go back to square one if a no vote succeeds, public sentiment may change. So please consider these facts. Numbers provided by city staff recently state that in the last 10 years, in approximately 1,500 events at Five Flags, only 20 events had attendance over 3,000. An event being defined as a single show that may or may not be part of a larger engagement, so if Doc Dogs is 3 days, that would be 3 events. 16 of those 20 events exceeded 3,000 in the past 10 years, and they were all high school graduations. Now, we definitely need a larger arena to service the needs of the city of Dubuque, but increasing from 3,500 to 6,500 seats will not automatically mean larger shows, events, or attendance, and that's way more than we've had with our max attendance with our graduations. And in fact, COVID has clearly demonstrated smaller centers and markets turned out to be the ideal, and ours is best mitigated against risk from the economy by building smaller. So if we want to protect ourselves from that potential risk that we experienced during COVID or an economic downturn, the best way to mitigate that risk is to build smaller. So I ask the City Council to defer setting a referendum here tonight until you can answer those two important questions posed here. And I'd also strongly urge you to consider rebuilding the interior of Five Flags within the current footprint as proposed by option 2 versus option 4. So I thank you for your time and your service.
Thank you, Mr. Pregler. Come on up, Tom.
Hello. My name is Tony Full. I reside at 1053 Shady Oaks Drive. And I'm here tonight as a citizen who's attended a couple of wrestling matches, monster trucks, rodeos, and concerts in the last few years. As a business owner who owns the Fisher Companies and the Hotel Julian Dubuque, but most importantly for tonight, I'm the current president of Dubuque Main Street. And I think as many of you know, Dubuque Main Street commissioned a supplemental study on behalf of about 30 different businesses, property owners, and individuals to sort of peer review the work that CSL had done previously. I think you'll note that that peer review sort of came out and said, not only do we agree with CSL's numbers, but we think in many regards they were a little conservative. And so Main Street, in light of that, is asking that you guys go ahead and set the referendum for March of 23. Just looking at that study, it might bring out a few highlights. One, you'll see that it says in year 5, so that year 5 is what they predict to be the stabilization year. It shows that the Five Flags Center will result in over $21 million in annual economic activity. Talks about supporting over 140 full-time equivalent jobs and also $3.7 million in increased earnings for those jobs and $1.3 million in direct tax revenue for the city. That doesn't account for the construction jobs and other economic impact. We also at Main Street fully believe that a new Five Flags Center would act as a real catalyst for other economic activity and development in downtown and really anchor our downtown going forward. I think it's important to point out that when we did commission this study, the one thing, and I'll say that I'm the one who spoke to Johnson Consultants who did the study, and I said the most important thing to me is that this be objective and that these numbers are real, because not only am I putting my name behind it, Dubuque Main Street is putting their name behind it, but these other 30 businesses that we asked to contribute to fund that study are putting their name behind it. And so, I know there's a lot of people who think that, nobody ever does none of these studies ever come out saying you should do anything other than build a new arena. And maybe that's the case, I'm not sure, but I can say that I feel like we did everything we could to make sure that Johnson approached their study as objectively as possible. And I guess the other point that we want to raise is, and to what Mr. Pregler said, if not this new Five Flags, then what? I think we all understand that currently the city is subsidizing Five Flags, to the tune of $800,000 a year. In addition to millions of dollars that I think are budgeted for the next few years just to put Band-Aids on Five Flags. And I think it's conceivable that that subsidy is going to increase. I think the studies have also noted that the current management of Five Flags has done an amazing job attracting events given the age and state of our current arena, which as it gets older and older is only going to get tougher to fill. And so that subsidy is going to increase. So, I agree that we need to ask ourselves, what happens if this doesn't pass? But really, I think it's time to set the date, and as a community, let's work to figure out the answers to those questions so that the general public can make the most informed decision in March of 2023. So we're asking you to accept the commission's recommendation and schedule a referendum. Thanks.
Thank you very much for your comments. Others?
Tim Hitzler, 2655 Fulton Street. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Council. A common argument for a new Five Flags is that a $90 million arena won't work in other towns but will in Dubuque. I emailed each of you 8 examples of other feasibility studies which describe other cities as unique. This argument is common. I respect and appreciate the views of those that want a new arena. Unfortunately, most of the arguments I have heard deal with nostalgia rather than numbers, memories, not arguments. It has become normalized that Five Flags will cost taxpayers increasing amounts of money year after year. Add to that, when we pull $90 million out of Dubuque's economy to build a new arena, it is like handing money from your right hand to your left and declaring you are rich. $90 million out of taxpayer pockets means one less waitress here, one less contractor there, and so on. This is a basic rule of economics. No one knows even how much money Five Flags truly brings into Dubuque. No amount of financial logic will convince some supporters when emotions are involved. The Civic Center Commission stated last week they will trust the experts, which is CSL. I again publicly ask for examples of forecast accuracy. Actual civic centers that performed close to what was predicted. I have seen none despite many requests. This data should be quickly and proudly shown by supporters. According to published research and my research, feasibility studies miss the mark consistently. They are not good at guessing and often predict double the actual performance. Inaccurate forecasts show that civic centers are not the economic powerhouses some hope them to be. I mention this often because it is crucial that we use reliable data when deciding how to spend $90 million of taxpayer money. Most of us would scrutinize the forecast more if this were our own personal investment. I ask again, who will be accountable besides taxpayers if a new Five Flags does not draw 286,000 people annually? Can the city define success for Five Flags, or will we continue to move the goalpost as we have since 1979? What is our expectation regarding revenue from out-of-town attendance, for example? Not defining who is accountable or performance expectations is simply gambling with taxpayer money and hoping for the best. We would ask these questions if these were our own investments. Why not with taxpayer investments? These questions should be answered for taxpayers to make the best decisions. After studying dozens of examples of other civic centers, I have a prediction of my own, which I hope is wrong. If voters support this referendum, the new Five Flags will draw a max of half the predicted attendance and will gradually decline as the new arena loses its sheen, which will cost more money to update and maintain. Taxpayer subsidies will be required at increasing levels beyond the yearly $800,000 they are today. We will do another study to find out why the arena is not performing. This new study will show that we need more parking or hotels. Some may also blame less experienced management on the lack of performance. We may build more parking or a hotel and still not get the return on investment we hope for. This is a pattern seen over and over. Performance is always one taxpayer expense away, but never realized. While all this is happening, rents for low-income residents and property taxes for homeowners will increase, forcing them to subsidize a vanity project that financially benefits a few businesses and hotels in the downtown area. The survey I created provides several alternatives from community members, including, these are just a few of the many, local business retail space like Nubo City Market in Cedar Rapids, affordable housing units, more culturally diverse performance options, indoor sports complex for the public, sell the arena to the private sector and reduce taxes, senior citizen activity center, outdoor concert area, prioritize more walking and biking options, improve city parks, help taxpayers improve their properties, or a downtown community garden. Point is, including people in the design of a civic center from the ground up is essential if we truly want it to be for the people. A civic center does not need to include an arena, especially when we have several other competitive and quality options, such as Schmidt Island and Mississippi Moon Bar, which we are expanding Schmidt Island. This is simply a redundancy in services already provided. We can do better than build a cookie-cutter arena that costs taxpayers money each year to stay afloat. Several cities can serve as examples. Omaha, Nebraska, for example, their residents decided to tear down its civic center and replace it with affordable housing, office space, and retail space. La Crosse, Wisconsin chose to spend less than was recommended and operates in the black. Newbo City Market in Cedar Rapids would also serve as a great alternative at a cost of only $5 million paid for largely by fundraising. Dubuque has an opportunity here to create a civic center that is inclusive, fiscally responsible, and truly unique. Let's do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hitzler.
Mr. Mayor, City Council members, City staff, my name is Mark Wallert. I'm here as the Executive Director for the Dubuque Symphony Orchestra. We have our offices at 2728 Asbury Road in the city of Dubuque. I'm here to speak on behalf of the Symphony, as I said. We consider ourselves an anchor tenant of Five Flags. Most of our concerts each year are held there. We occupy many parts of the facility, probably 50 to 60 days a year, and we bring approximately 20,000 concert goers to that venue each year as well. So we know the facility well. We are an anchor tenant. We work closely with the staff there as well as with the city. And quite frankly, the facility needs serious investment. We fully support the plans moving forward. We fully support the referendum. However, much like the City Civic Center Commission is recommending, we would also hope that city leadership would look at other funding options beyond a single giant one bite at the apple enchilada referendum. We have to, I think, look at federal, state, local, other funding, grants, partnerships, whatever it might be, to help make sure that this project can move forward in the timeliness that we need it to, yet without perhaps having to put so much of the burden on our local taxpayers. Symphony's been at the table for several years, helping to help move this project forward. We'll be at the table going forward as well, and we would just ask for your consideration to other funding options that might help this project come to fruition. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Waller. Any other public input here in chambers?
My name is Bryce Parks, 2770 Van Buren. I've been on the Five Flags Commission for about 20 years. I don't think I'm the reincarnation of Julian Dubuque, but I appreciate the sentiment. First of all, addressing one other thing earlier, I think we talk about events over 3,000 people. When we have events over 3,000 people at Five Flags, it causes issues with egress and bathrooms. It makes people angry, and they get letters about it. So that's part of by design, and you don't see shows over that. And you get Willie Nelson there at 4,000. He fills the room, but then they also get the flack back. So a lot of that is by design to turn it sideways, treat it as a theater, and have that audience of less than 3,000 to be the target, on purpose anyway. I think you already understand that the data provided by CSL and supported by a third-party firm reviewing their data is not flawed or based on a pipe dream. It's based on real actionable data. These real numbers are based on extensive market research and backed by years of experience doing the exact same thing from that firm. So when the consultants from CSL called in to a recent city council meeting and explained how those who would cherry pick from hundreds of other venues in America to find examples of communities, new venues that did not meet expectations set down by CSL, those projects were ones that did not follow the suggested path set by CSL. But the city is rather engaged and decided to put venues in locations other than places suggested by CSL, or chose to make them at different sizes, use different amenities from what CSL suggested. And in other words, they didn't do exactly what CSL said to do to achieve the goal that was in the report as presented. I bring this up as a note. Are people looking to do something other than what CSL suggested is best for Dubuque, which of course is the revised scenario 4 hybrid. While scenario 2 or 3 is closer to the budget that we had in 2019 for scenario 4, it's not the project that CSL suggested we build. So if we do look at a different scenario like that, I think we have to wonder if we're going to become one of the cities on the list that decided to do things that we think we know better than the professionals about how to find success in the end. I think the data is there. It's supported by an outside secondary firm who looked at it again. And I think if we're going to move forward, we should do what the data says. And that's why I, on the commission, decided to put forward the numbers as we did to you to vote on tonight based on those numbers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Parks. We appreciate it.
Mayor and City Council, Dan Lobianco, 3503 West Way here in Dubuque, also the Executive Director of Dubuque Main Street. I know you heard from Tony. Just wanted to add just a couple of things as a reminder that as we project the cost into the future of the cost of the arena and everything, I don't think the tax revenue and some of the other revenues are actually, accelerated as well, and that's a consideration. Plus, as we look to the future, when we talk about the possibility, we know that we as the private sector and not-for-profit sector need to work together to educate the public. It's our job. We are here to endorse again that March 2023, so we can have some time to educate the public, to find, perhaps naming rights. The private sector standing up and saying, we are here to bring down those costs a little bit too. I heard from Mark Waller, we agree the not-for-profit sector needs to meet a little bit, hopefully working with the city to find other grant opportunities, NEA, National Endowment for the Arts, possibly for the theater, so the artwork that's in there, attraction grants and things along those lines. So we feel pretty strongly that we can show and try to educate the public and let the public make that decision, as several of you have indicated. We think that's important. Also, we're looking a little bit from that not-for-profit sector on the, used to have a Key Club program where if a show wasn't, or a show or entertainment wasn't sold out, that dramatically reduced or even free attendance for those people in the low-income area of town, or low-income people would have an opportunity to enjoy these events that some people are concerned with, as well as other disadvantaged public. So again, we support the commission and all their study, and our study and their study on the feasibility of this, and we think it's time to bring it to a vote, but give us a little time in March so that we can work to educate and to work out some other things. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lobianco. All right. Do we have any virtual input?
No virtual input.
Okay. Last call then. All right, we went a little over, but I really appreciate, I think for the discussion that we are going to be having tonight, I very much appreciate hearing everybody's input, so thank you very much for bringing that to all of us here on the council. All right, Adrian, we can move to action items, please.
Action item number 1 is City of Dubuque Fire Chief recommendation.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Jones.
I move that we sustain the city manager's recommendation and approve the appointment of Chief Amy Scheller.
Second.
Would you like to add receive and file to that?
Sure.
Okay,
Receive and
sounds
file it
good.
as well.
We'll add that to the motion then. All right, and second by Ms. Roussel. Mike, please.
Thank you. City Manager Mike Van Milligan. Upon the retirement of Fire Chief Rick Steinis in 2022, Assistant Fire Chief Cal Mach was appointed interim fire chief. I want to thank Cal for accepting this special responsibility and in serving in this position so well. Cal did not apply for the permanent position of fire chief. With the appointment of a permanent fire chief, Cal will return to his previous rank of assistant fire chief. And as a side note, as mentioned earlier tonight by Cal, his daughter is one of our newest firefighters. After Rick Steinis' retirement, the city hired a national search firm, GovHR USA, to assist city staff with doing a national search for a new fire chief. On another side note, that's the same firm we hired to help us with the national search for the recent police chief vacancy. GovHR USA conducted an engagement process to solicit input from different community stakeholders to develop a profile for the type of candidates that would be sought for the position. GovHR USA then conducted a national search process and then did a thorough screening process of applicants to identify viable candidates that met the search criteria. As required by state law, A list of eligible candidates was certified by the City of Dubuque Civil Service Commission. 4 finalists were selected for interview, 2 external candidates and 2 internal candidates. 23 individuals agreed to participate in 4 separate interview panels, including a community stakeholder panel, a fire department employee panel, a City of Dubuque leadership team panel, and an executive or core group panel. To kick off each day of the interviews, the candidate for that day made a presentation on what do you consider to be the top 3 issues that need to be addressed in the fire department profession currently, and how would you address those in Dubuque, close quotes. At the completion of the 4 interviews, interview panelists submitted to me their rankings of the candidate. Amy Scheller has 30 years of firefighter and paramedic experience. She has been a member of the Naperville, Illinois Fire Department, serving the city of 150,000 residents since 1998, where she currently serves as Deputy Fire Chief. The department consists of 184 firefighters and 17 administrative staff, with 10 fire stations covering a 50 square mile area. Amy has worked her way up through the organization, supervising and managing all areas of the fire department operations and administrative divisions. Amy has been the department's Deputy Chief of Administration and Strategic Planning since 2019 and reports directly to the Fire Chief and supervises the department's Division Chief of Operations, Division Chief of Emergency Medical Services, Division Chief of Training, Division Chief of Support Services, and the Department Emergency Operations Center. Amy previously served as the department's Division Chief of Operations from 2016 to 2019, the Bureau Chief for Support Services from 2015 to 2016, the Bureau Chief for Emergency Medical Services from 2014 to 2015, a lieutenant from 2010 to 2014, an acting fire lieutenant from 2008 to 2010, and firefighter paramedic from 1998 to 2010. She was previously a member of the Montgomery, Illinois Fire Department from 1992 to 2001, where she began her career as a paid-on-call firefighter paramedic. Amy's management experience includes strategic planning, standard of response coverage, annual reporting, incident management, emergency operations, grant writing and management, payroll, budget and capital improvement planning, vehicle services, dispatch liaison, labor negotiations, policy development, mentoring, and succession planning. Amy is a graduate of National Fire Academy's Executive Fire Officer Program and holds a master's degree in Public Safety Administration from Lewis University and a bachelor's degree in education from Aurora University. She is a member of the International Association of Fire Chiefs, through which she attained the Executive Chief Officer and Chief Fire Officer status, and the Illinois Fire Chiefs Association. She achieved the Chief Fire Officer designation and Fire Officer designation through the Center for Public Safety Excellence. It is with great enthusiasm that I respectfully recommend to the Mayor and City Council the appointment of Naperville, Illinois Deputy Fire Chief Amy Scheller as the new City of Dubuque Fire Chief. Amy will not only provide tremendous leadership for the fire department, but for the city organization and the community as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. I will bring it to the table for discussion.
Mr. Mayor.
Ms. Roussel.
I was extremely impressed with Ms. Scheller's broad experience and her resume and her certifications. I was really pleased to see the process that included a wide range of people on the interview team. And I think she will be a great leader to enhance the great work of our fire department is already doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Roussel.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Resnick.
I would like to agree with Ms. Roussel about this. So impressive. But what I felt when I was reading her resume is between the lines, there's this enthusiasm and excitement that I received from reading that. And I think that this candidate has that enthusiasm. I love it when enthusiastic people come to say, how can we improve what we do here in Dubuque? So I am enthusiastically going to support this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Jones.
I joined the enthusiastic crowd tonight. We had some exciting candidates there, that all of whom could probably have succeeded in running a fire department. But I wasn't involved in the interviews, but I know the people who were, and they came away from this excited and enthused and fired up. And look who we found enthused. So I'm kind of there too, from what I've read. I welcome her to our city organization and to the fire department, and I am excited for their future.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Mr. Sprank?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I'm very excited as well, so welcome on board.
Thank you. Yeah, Ms.
Mayor.
Wethel?
The merit in your appointment is exceptional, and we have an exceptional team that deserves a leader like you. So I'm really excited. I am grateful, as always, to the staff that we have, the work that they have done these last 2 years of the pandemic, the commitment to community, the absolute data-driven decisions that they request. They are exceptional, and you are too. So thank you.
Ms. Farber, I want to give you a chance. Do you want to jump in? I know you're virtual tonight.
Yeah, thank you. And I also echo the enthusiasm and welcome the diversity to the force, and applaud, as everyone else has, the enthusiasm and also the very diverse background. So welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Farber. Well, we sure sound excited. So, I mean, I got to tell you, that resume is something. Thank you. Thank you for choosing Dubuque. We are absolutely excited to have you here with us. I think it's pretty clear we're going to be voting for this tonight, so we'll go ahead and get done with that. But I just want to say that, you know, we are, in a lot of ways, we are so on the move in this city. I mean, I'm looking at several different department directors who are sitting here tonight, you know, and they show up a lot at these meetings and show up a lot at other things that I do in the community. We're going to see you a lot because you said so in your resume, but we know that that's the case. We see our fire department all the time. Services that we have here are absolutely incredible, and we are very excited for the next chapter of that here in Dubuque. So thank you very much, and I'm also very excited to be voting for this tonight. So without wasting any more time here, motion is to receive and file and approve the city manager's recommendations. So Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Jones?
Aye.
Farber?
Aye, with pleasure.
Resnick?
Aye.
Kavanaugh?
Aye.
Wethel?
Aye.
Roussel?
Aye.
Sprank?
Aye.
That motion passes 7-0. Welcome to the city of Dubuque, Chief. Would you like to say a few words? We'll give you a moment, and we'd love to introduce you to the city.
Good evening, Mayor Kavanaugh, City Council, City Manager Van Milligan. It is an honor and a privilege to be joining the members of the Dubuque Fire Department. I was so excited and thrilled to go through the process. It was a long 2-day process, but it was open and transparent, and it gave me an opportunity to learn a little bit more about the city, learn a little bit about the community, and learn a lot more about the fire department. So thank you so much on behalf of my husband, Scott, our son, Tim, who's actually graduating from college next week, friends and family who I have here today, and then several friends and family who are watching. I thank you so much. I am excited and honored. So thank you.
Thank you. We're glad to have you. All right. All right. Well, let's see if we can keep the excitement going, shall we? Next action item, please.
Action item number 2 is Five Flags Civic Center Commission referendum recommendation.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Jones.
I move that we receive and file the recommendation of the Civic Center Commission, that we concur with their recommendation and set the bond referendum for March 2023 for an amount not to exceed, I want to say that part because it might exceed it, I'm told today. And get this issue, the most studied issue in the city of Dubuque's recent history, to the voters to decide it.
So can I just clarify your motion?
You could
Did
also
stop in
shorten
the
it.
middle? Shorten it? But I heard receive and file concur with the recommendation of the Five Flags Civic Center Commission to set the referendum in March. But you didn't want to put the amount on there.
One of the memos that we saw today was that there's a likelihood of a 3% increase because of the extension in the dates when this was written. We were looking at a September referendum. This referendum would be 6 months later than that, and we believe that there'll be some additional construction costs. So I hesitate to say the not to exceed number because it'll be wrong.
Okay. So far we have receive and file concur with the Civic Center Commission to set the referendum for March of '23.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Jones, a second by Ms. Russell. Mike, did you have anything you wanted to read on this one?
No, sir.
Okay. All right, then I want to set the stage for how we're going to do this tonight. I want to make sure that we all have an opportunity to have a full discussion. So what I'd like to do is go around the table at least once, including Ms. Farber, who's obviously here with us virtually, and that includes all 7 of us, and then we can jump back in with further comments and discussion and have a good back and forth. But I want to make sure that we each have an opportunity to speak our piece first. Does that sound good to everybody else? Okay. All right, then I'll open it up for anyone who wants to jump in first.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Resnick.
I might as well jump in there. All right.
Dive in, sir.
First of all, I want to say that I really appreciate the dedicated and hardworking Five Flags Commission. So much work going on, and they do great work. Almost all of us have been in an election in the last 6 months or so, and the input I got from the voters about the $74 million price tag, it was indicated it was going to be a tough slog. I could tell it was going to be a tough slog, and 90 million plus now could even be tougher. So I would be very interested in when people comment to tell. I would love to hear what the other council members heard from the public. Of course, I think that's very important. I think what we need to do set before the folks in a referendum has to be possible. Again, my experience might be different from others, but I would like to set out a referendum, get excited, and have it pass. I wasn't feeling it when I was out just 6 months ago. But I invite the other council members to talk. So knowing that background, that I would like an improved, I think they would like an improved Five Flags. And I don't think they want what Mr. Full called the bandages of $10 million of improvement over a flawed piece of property that we have now. So personally, I'll just say to start things off that I do like scenario 2 that does not have a change in the footprint. It has 4,000 seats. It was $26 million, and now with the 20% extra that the other group has, it would be a $31 million price tag. Now, one of the reasons I like that is it's a muscled up Five Flags that we have now, and it improved in many ways, not just nicer seats, right? And not the $10 million bandage, but 3 times that, which we could get a really nice facility and not block off Fifth Street and many other things. But most of all, I think that's what the people of Dubuque would like. And I would like them to be heard here as well, and I'm sure that you do as well. So I just wanted to start things off and with those comments. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Resnick. Ms. Rousseau?
Yeah. I believe that I want to support the hard work of the commission. I think the studies have told us that scenario 4 is the best fit for our community. I think Mr. Parks kind of talked about that. that the other scenarios in the study said they all had flaws and were eliminated from consideration. I think that the commission stated that the March 23rd date would allow time for us to educate everyone, including ourselves, on the project itself, allow time for fundraising and talking about public and private investment to help offset some of the costs, offering relief to the taxpayers. I also think that Mr. Pregler had a point that people want to better understand what happens if the referendum does not pass. And I think that within the budget process, and Mr. Van Milligan maybe could help, there is a plan, right? It's budgeted if we don't vote for a new center. Is there not a budgeted plan that to the Band-Aid, I guess, what you call it. And I think people should really understand when they're voting, what is all involved in a yes vote. What do you get, good and bad? And also, if you vote no, what are the opportunity costs, or what are you voting for? So when you vote no, you're essentially voting yes to something else. And so I think that should be made clear. I don't know whose job that is, but voters need to understand exactly what they're going to be voting for, one way or the other. Those are my initial thoughts.
Did you want Mr. Van Milligan to address that now, or do you want to? Because you have kind of a direct question about if this doesn't, if we put scenario 4, as suggested by the commission, in front of the voters, then it gets voted down. What's after that? Is that?
Yes. Is it correct that there's already a plan, a budget in place for status quo at the facility? Is that correct?
Yes, it is correct. So in the city budget, the last few years, the mayor and council has approved $6 million to be allocated in case the referendum doesn't pass, to be spent to basically do the maintenance things that need to be done on the existing facility. I will tell you that we haven't done the study to update those numbers, and so I've heard that just using some rule of thumbs of increased cost in general for construction projects, that number may have to go up to as much as $10.5 million. We would do that analysis for next budget cycle, and would recommend that allocation of resources should the referendum not pass, so that what exists could be maintained to current standards.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Who's next?
Well, I'll go.
All right, Mr. Jones.
Well, as I said, one of the most studied items in the history of the city of Dubuque. So how does it get to this table today? The same way everything does. Concerned citizens said we need a better Five Flags facility. They brought it through the commission. They brought it directly to council. The commission studied it. The commission brought it to council. So here it is. We spent some serious money studying it. We lost some time. We lost 2 years to a pandemic that was not in the plan. And during that time, we saw an exponential cost in building materials and construction costs in general. That wasn't our fault. It wasn't the commission's fault. It wasn't the people that want a better center's fault. It's just the way it is. So that's where we are today. I keep hearing the word subsidized. And yeah, we subsidize Five Flags. We also subsidize streets, we subsidize parks, we subsidize pools, we subsidize pickleball courts, we subsidize an airport. We do a lot of things to make living in this city palatable to the people that live here. And I think that the value of a civic center equals the value of an Eagle Point Park, which we also invest in. It costs money to operate the park. It costs money to operate things that people want to do. I wasn't on the council, but I was employed by the city when the citizens said, we want a civic center. in the 1970s when there was a private effort to raise funds to restore the theater, and there became a big empty space next to it that became the existing Five Flags that we have today. And today it's not good enough. It's clearly not good enough. Really wasn't good enough then, but it's all we could afford. And we've got a few things like that. This is a city that's been managed very well and has some investment opportunities because of our ownership of the Q Casino property, formerly the dog track. We've had some good cash flow into the city that's not coming directly from taxpayers' pockets in the form of taxation. So we've been able to do some things that we couldn't do then. Another example, the Northwest Arterial, they built what they could afford. There's a lot of curb cuts in it, too doggone many curb cuts in it, but it's what the city could afford. And thousands of people turn left and right into those curb cuts every day to jobs, so money well spent. This was money well spent too. It gave us an opportunity to do things that we couldn't do before. And it gave some people downtown some opportunities to invest and reinvest in what was an absolutely dead as could be area. We've got a fairly new hotel right across the street from Five Flags. We've got the beautifully, fantastically restored Hotel Julian Dubuque just blocks away. We've got all the parking that a big facility or a small facility needs within just a few blocks. And people in Dubuque aren't used to walking just a few blocks, but when I drive into Chicago to see a show, if I've only got to walk 8 blocks, man, that's a win. You're not going to have to walk 8 blocks. You're going to have to walk 3 or 4 on the worst days down there. I was intrigued by H.R. Cook's proposal to build a smaller facility. I thought this guy knows something about running a facility, but I'm more impressed with the commission's argument that this is what we studied, this is what was recommended, it was recommended for good reasons. I'm even more impressed by the fact that one of our partner not-for-profits invested some money and got some others to invest money to check the numbers to make sure that it's right. So we've got some pretty good confidence that we've got some good numbers. So the consultant is right. The commission is right. They voted unanimously to do this. I was elected to support them. I appointed them to support me, to support us, to help us with the heavy lifting on issues like this. And you think the consultants have been studying this and fretting about this. This commission has been losing sleep over this thing for a decade. They've been working hard on it. They've been trying to get a grip on what's best, what's next, what should happen, and they've done a really good job of that as well. To the referendum question itself, it's a binary question. It's a yes/no question. Shall we do this or shall we not do this? It's not shall we do this or this. It can't be by statute. Yeah, we've got a backup plan. We own this building. We have to take care of it. 2 things could have made it impossible to rebuild it. One could be the council could decide tonight, we're not going to do this. We're not going to take it to referendum. It's over tonight. That could happen here. Don't think it's going to, but that could happen here. And so good planning says when we're building the budget last year and the year before, how do we deal with that possibility? And of course, the other possibility is we take it to referendum and it fails. A very real possibility. We've got interest groups in the community for and against. They'll have time to mobilize and campaign and help the public to understand the pros and the cons of moving forward with this issue. But the only way you can answer a question like this, what does the community want, is to go and ask the community. And that's why we've got to go next March, when everybody's got time to tell the story, to explain the bad parts, explain the good parts, to chase this theory, to chase that theory, and give us the best information we can get, and citizens to go decide, what do I want to spend my money on? How do I want to spend my leisure time in the city of Dubuque? Do I want this option or don't I want this option? And if it fails, there'll be more conversation about now what. That's what always happens with referendums on public facilities. It either passes and you build it, or it fails and you don't build it, and then you talk about now what. But to start talking about the now what for something that might fail, way premature. We know what. We've got a building that needs some fixing. And if we don't demolish it and rebuild it, we're going to fix it. That's the now what. So it's a binary question. It's yes, do we do it? No, don't we do it? We've got to put the right number on it, which I believe is 3% higher than 89,700,000 at this point. There may or may not be some private money or some grant money that comes into it. I got to tell you, the grant money is not looking good from the folks that we know that know a lot about grants. But it doesn't mean we won't keep looking every single day, because that's what our grant team does. It's time to quit studying and start doing. Pandemic has slowed, at least to the point that we can do business. We need an answer. We need the answer from the citizens of Dubuque on what should we be doing. So here's the question. Here comes the question.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Mr. Spring.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've gotten really torn on this issue because it's like, yes, I really want something big and beautiful and nice. A lot of people don't. And that's been frustrating for me because, well, okay, I get it. Are you willing to get something that's just as nice, that maybe isn't just as nice? And I keep going back to option 3. I know it's not what everybody wants. Running the cost-wise, when I was comparing the price on the 75 million to the 89 million, the new number for option 4, that was a 16% increase. And so if we're going to add another 3%, so that's about 19% we're looking at here. Option 4 was around 49, was a little over 49 million, and if you add 19% to that, we're at nearly 58 million. That's not a pleasant number anybody wants to swallow and live with either. But I also look at, okay, if I'm going to go out of town and see a show, I'm going to spend at least $200 to go see a show. That's a cheap show probably, because that may not include parking. It may not include a hotel room. That may just be the tickets for some show somewhere else. And that's probably a really good show. So that gets me torn where it's like, okay, so if we spend 89 million, we're talking about $200 a year on potentially getting raised on your taxes. Well, I could be spending that $200 in some other community. I'd rather spend that money here in my community. So either way, I want to move forward on this. It's time to get off the pot and make a decision and let our citizens decide what do they want. I would love it if we could maybe do some type of informal poll. I don't know. There's a lot of information that needs to get processed. There needs to be a yes campaign, which unfortunately we as council can't really be a part of. We will only take whatever decision the citizens say. If they want this, they want this. If they don't, they don't. If they don't, our plan B is we're going to have to dump over 10.5 million, was it, Mike? Almost?
Yes, sir.
So either way, we're spending money. We've got an old house that is older than me. When you look at it.
Yeah, boy, because that's old.
Well, hey, I'm going to be 38 soon. So if you've got something that's older than, you got to put some money into it. So either way, we have to spend money. Thanks.
Mr. Sprang. Ms. Wethel.
As the most newly elected city council person, I was elected on March 29th. And so as I knocked doors and made phone calls, I will tell you this is probably the number one thing people talked to me about. And it wasn't that people were completely opposed to investing in our community with Five Flags. My answer to them was, I believe that you get to choose. I believe that you, the individual taxpayer, the individual homeowner, is smart enough to know what you want. And so I campaigned saying I would vote for a referendum. And I know that the referendum is going to be potentially more money than even initially we discussed, because the details are that if we put the referendum off from September to March, there is a potential estimated 3% increase in cost, which is nearly $2.7 million. The difference between September to March is $2.7 million. Now, in my head, when I first saw the potential to move it to March rather than September, I thought, we'll be further through the pandemic. Households may understand what they personally can spend. We'll know more about entertainment, whether that's we cannot wait to get out and see the best show, or I'm not really sure if I want to go in a venue. I will tell you, I don't think it's going to be the second. We're going to spend millions of dollars. No one is going to come over and offer us millions of dollars to purchase our facility right now. And so when we address things like what is a no vote, in my eyes, a no vote is we're back to the drawing board. And if that's what my community wants, then that's what I'll do, because that's what I was elected to do. But at this point, I will support a referendum. To me, the question is, do we support the referendum by increasing the cost from September to March by an estimated $2.7 million? And I will defer to discussion with my colleagues to focus on that.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Wethel. Ms. Farber, we've come to you.
Yes, thank you. And I had previously shared some comments at our last council meeting when this was discussed as to some of the feedback that I had received. And it incorporated, as you recall, both the profit, the nonprofit, and the partnerships throughout the city. And that included, the examples tonight of all those folks that came forward from Main Street and Tim and Mark Wallert, et cetera. I very much think that the Civic Center for Dubuque is quite unique and could continue to be unique if we can, quote unquote, make it more fiscally responsible. So I'm really kind of looking at this like a business plan. And my question is, do we have and will we have enough time to get all the information that we really need to move forward to let the citizens make this decision? And with the extra 6 months, I think we will have time to educate. We will have time for fundraising, and the three organizations, the public, private, and the nonprofit, can get together to have more conversation about what this impact is for our downtown and for our commitment to a thriving neighborhood. I do think that it would be interesting, and it was mentioned by one of the colleagues about an informal poll. It's just unfortunate, and maybe it's possible for us to direct staff to do some kind of a poll, some kind of a survey in the short term here with a timeline attached to it, where we could get more broad input from the citizens of Dubuque. And we could use the partnerships that we currently have with the 30 businesses as an example that helped Main Street with their study to get their employees to respond, the CDGC, other organizations to maybe take a look at potentially putting up a survey about the Five Flags and what the input is from the citizens, like we have done for other initiatives that the city has in the previous years. I just feel like we have some information, but we may not have enough information to really be totally informed as to how to move forward with this decision. On the other hand, I do understand that return on our investment is significant here with workforce development, building the downtown neighborhood, it being an economic driver for tourism, hospitality, and the hotel industry. I think we all understand what that benefit might be. I'd also like to see if the staff could step up and take a look at Destination Iowa grant, which the governor just announced is a $100 million grant that will be given to community projects aimed at improving quality of life and attracting tourists and new residents. And this funding, I think, comes from the American Rescue Act, and we might be a beneficial party in that if we can get that application in. It's $100 million that the governor is taking from ARPA funds for tourism. And I don't see why we couldn't do that. And then the other question is how we could tee up and try to get some additional funding. And I think Mark Wallert was working on something with the NEA for the rehab of the theater, which would also help in the pricing. So I look forward to further discussion as well. I am supportive of the project, but just am curious to see if we need to do a little bit more upfront work in a very short period of time to help get better input from the citizens in a broader base. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Farber. Well, I delayed that long enough. I guess it's my turn, huh? So, I can't think of it. I mean, there's been some tough stuff that we've had to deal with in the last couple of years. We've taken a look at some really difficult things. I know that me personally, I have not agonized over a decision as much as this one. And part of the reason is there are always going to be unknowns. And we don't have that crystal ball on something like this. But there is one thing that I know, and I'm really confident about this. We need a new Five Flags arena. We need a new one. Scenarios 1 and 2, they don't make sense anymore. They are so far behind modern that it won't even function. We have to modernize it. The ceiling isn't high enough to be able to bring in the acts that we need to be able to bring in for modern times and the things that we need to do. The facilities for performers and teams are literally older than Mr. Sprank, apparently, because they are, they're from the original 1970s. The physical experience for customers is, frankly, and I mean this with complete respect to the world-class staff that we have running the facility, but I think the physical experience of the building itself for the people that come to Dubuque to enjoy it, for us, is embarrassing at this point. It leads to bathroom lines that go out of the building to potentially porta potties because we can't function in the way that we need to function. We need a new facility. And here's the thing, and this goes back to some of the comments that I've heard from my colleagues about when we were out campaigning, because I will completely agree. This is one of the top issues that comes up when you're out talking to people. And actually now too, I mean, I'm still getting phone calls today. I'm hearing from people constantly. This isn't about our entertainment. It's not about our personal entertainment as much as it is about our economics as a city, our community pride, growing our population, our workforce, increasing the amount of money people are going to spend in our community, all those things that we want and need. That's what this is really about. It's not about how much you see yourself going to anything at the Five Flags Arena or the Historic Theater or anything like that. It's about these much bigger issues. If we want to, I want to make sure that we say this out loud too, we can do nothing. We can stay exactly where we are right now. If we want to do that as a community, we can do absolutely nothing. But I am convinced that if we do that, we will slowly decline as a community of choice, and we can watch other cities around us benefit from our inability to move forward. We're going to watch other people spend money in other cities, go to their live events, eat at their restaurants, stay in their hotels, enjoy the investments that they're certainly going to continue to make in those places. That does not sound like a city that I want to live in, frankly. It just doesn't sound like a place that I want to be. I moved back here in 2008. I grew up here. I moved back here in 2008. And it wasn't because this was a stuffy, boring place to live. I moved back here because it was a community on the move. People that had been in leadership for a long time had made some really tough, I think very courageous decisions to grow, to improve, to modernize, and to make progress. And I moved back here because the leaders built opportunity into this city. And I think that's what we need to be thinking about as we look forward. The choice before us is, frankly, I could use a lot of words, a lot of descriptors here, but it is incredibly challenging. We cannot ignore the economics that we live in. We are a small city in the United States. We are very subject to the economic forces nationally and internationally. If you don't have your head in a hole right now, you know that inflation is still on the up. We have persistent supply chain issues. The Federal Reserve is looking at raising rates again. Stock market's not doing very well as of last week. We got a lot of challenges ahead of us. And to be completely honest, I didn't have my mind 100% made up when I walked in the door tonight. This is one of those decisions where I really needed to hear from everybody. And we've done a very good job of not talking to each other about this outside of the public forum, so I'll point that out. So I really needed to hear what everybody was saying. And at this point, where I stand is, Mr. Bach said something, you always get me when you bring up a Robert Kennedy quote. Some people look at a problem and ask why. Why is this happening? Why is it so terrible? I look at a problem and say, why not? I think that's the way we need to think. Think about all the things that are going on here. Think about all the big things that are happening in Dubuque. The Field of Dreams is happening right here. That's our region. We've got a boat sitting in the basin of the Mississippi River ready to come on up here. And I don't know if you've looked at the price of those tickets, but they're high. We've got a lot of stuff going on. We need to capitalize on that. And I think we need to think about that. We need people to be able to make an argument as to why we should do this, and then people to be able to make a solid argument as to why we shouldn't. So I really do think we need to put it up for a referendum vote in March for the option that's on the table, the scenario 4 hybrid option. The biggest one that's sitting before us right now. It's really expensive. It's a really difficult number to swallow. And I think it's something that we should talk about. I think it's something we should educate ourselves about. I think the cost is going to be the cost, going back to Ms. Wethel's point. You know, I mean, we could hold off, or we could do it early and say, oh, it's cheaper, but it's not really going to be cheap. I mean, we really need to be, I think we need to be honest with ourselves about what the costs are going to do in the next, between September and March, and that they are going to go up. And even if we set a cap, that's going to mean that we end up in a situation where the supply chain is not going to match what we decided we're going to spend on this. We need to be honest about what it is, and I think that March is a better time to do that. And to Ms. Farber's point, you know, I think if we decide on this tonight and we put a referendum in place, then I don't think it's the city's job necessarily anymore to go out and do any polling. I think that's the job of some of the folks we heard here tonight who are ready to be on the yes side of this or the no side of it and ask the community, what do you want? You get this discussion after we're done with it here tonight if we decide to put it on a referendum. The city attorney is smiling at me because she knows that we're going to zip it after this, and we legally cannot really speak about this in this way anymore to give our opinion. Oh, she's shaking her head no.
A resolution would have to come back to you approving the language for the ballot.
All right, so we get one more chance to opine about things, which, you know, we all love to do. So we are going to have to look at this again to make sure that we have the language right if we decide to put this on a referendum. So the vote tonight would be we can kind of go with Mr. Jones's motion and say, we're going to do this, we're going to put it up for referendum in March, you're going to come back with language for us.
Yes, essentially it's going to be refer to me.
Okay. You look excited about that. Okay, so with that said, I'm hearing various different things here tonight. So I guess I'm going to open it back up for any more discussion to be able to add now that we've all had a chance to jump in. If there's any more that we have to say and we'd like to discuss.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, Mr. Resnick.
Thank you very much. And I've spoken out for a long time that I'm for a referendum. I think we have one good shot at it myself. And from what I'm hearing, 74 million was quite a stretch, but I was kind of pulling for it. I don't think $92 million, I just don't think it's reflective of what I've heard or what anybody heard from the electorate just 6 months ago. So my vote tonight on this motion, I think we will vote on this motion, reflects to me, 92 million or bandages. And I would prefer something, as you alluded to, Mr. Cook said that there could be other possibilities. I talked tonight about scenario 2, which is $31 million or bandages. I prefer to think of the $31 million not as just ridiculous waste of time and out of touch with reality, but a muscular 5 flags, which will be a much better facility than we have today, and much more in tune with what the citizens want and which our community can support. So I just wanted to reiterate why I do appreciate that we go to the people for this vote. I think we have the wrong choices. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Resnick. Yeah, Mr. Spring.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think we also have to forget, I think that we've also kind of forgotten that we are also talking about rehabbing our existing theater, because that's a lot too, if all of a sudden whatever happens is said no. I don't know what exactly would it be all in that 10.5 million for that, but we also need to rehab that space as well. So the push regardless is to also rehab that. And sometimes people forget that. So, but back to my thing, I feel citizens won't agree with the 92 million. That's too much of an ask. It's sad that it's too far of a reach. And I think 60-some million would be comfortable at least, but those are just my thoughts. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Strang.
Mr. Mayor, this is Susan.
Yes, Ms. Farber.
Can I ask a question? If there is an opportunity for significant fundraising and it does come to fruition, Greta, does that allow us to change the total amount that we're asking for in the referendum between now and March? Say if we know what that sum is at a designated point in time, that would be a cutoff for the legal, all the things that would need to be done in order to get this on the referendum?
Yes. By state code, we have to give the county a 46-day notice of the ballot language. So you could amend that up until that time frame to adjust.
And could you just do the math for me and tell me if it was March whenever, what that date would be?
Okay, I did a quick count. So from March 7th, 2023, 46 days puts us in the ballpark of January 20th, 2023. And I would need to go back and officially slowly count that, but that was my quick count.
Okay, so just to follow up to Danny's point too. So let's assume that we get an NEA grant. Let's assume that we may get part of the tourism grant from the governor and other ARPA funds, and that lowers the amount. Do we need final confirmation that we have those funds in hand on that date, certain of 7 January?
I think you would want something to confirm that, because once you lock in the resolution language for the ballot, it's a do not exceed amount, so it cannot change once it has been submitted to the county.
Okay, if I understand correctly, the challenge here is because it's new construction and not renovation of a historic building or in a zone that is an opportunity zone, if you will, that this is why this goes to referendum versus some of the other things that we can be doing for the millwork and Schmidt Island. Just want to make sure that everybody's aware of that.
Can you ask that again, please?
Okay, so I understand that when we do things for the Millwork District and Schmidt Island, because they're in an opportunity zone or a zone that is designated for a rehab, and therefore it opens up avenues for grants, that because this is a new construction or could be a new construction, that we are not able to apply for some of those grants where we could in other locations within the city.
Opportunity zones would be treated differently than the location of Five Flags. You are correct.
Correct, and it is new, and therefore that's the challenge I think that we are having here, or the opportunity that we are having here for the new facility. Okay, all right, thank you for that clarification.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, Mr. Van Milligan, go ahead.
City Manager Mike Van Milligan. I'm not sure if I'll be answering the question or not, but I do believe Five Flags is in an opportunity zone. And so technically, I guess you could say it would be eligible for that type of investment, but we would have to do a lot of research to figure out. So the way the opportunity zones work is it's a way for people that have capital gains from other investments to shelter those capital gains from taxes. And so I'm going to assume for a minute it has to be a privately financed development to make that work. Mm-hmm. So I'm not exactly sure how it fits into a publicly financed development, but we certainly could research that question if that creates any kind of possibility for funding.
Okay.
Yeah, I just want to know if that indeed was something that could be explored, if indeed that did come across. So thank you for that clarification.
All right, thank you. Ms. Wethel.
Mayor?
Yep.
So it is a big ask, but I want to ask. I think that that's my job, and it's not my job to tell my neighbor what they can afford. It's not my job to tell my neighbor what they want to drive the economy this way. And so I am in favor of asking. I think the challenge that I put to the community, both those in favor and those opposed, is that the clock would start. And it is now your job to decide how you want to advocate for your mission of what you would like. It is now on your shoulders to make the decision about how you want to talk to your own neighbors about it. It would have to be done by 46 days before the vote. And so you would have until January 20th, if we decide on the March date, to secure funds that would have to be on the table. This is not, I pledge naming rights that I will give $100,000 over a 10-year period of time. That wouldn't count. So we need money on the table, and we need people who are passionate about the mission, if they choose to support it, to hit the ground running. If the March date is a move, then that would be the expectation, and people opposed would have that time to advocate to their neighbors the same. Maybe that would give them the opportunity to talk with neighbors about what they do want. At the end of this, if it is a no vote, which I respect that people want to know what a no vote means, if it is a no vote, we have all learned together and educated one another that if it's a no, what they want. And so I think that there is benefit in that for all of us to have those discussions as a community rather than just here. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So before we call the vote, I do want to mention a couple of things. I mean, I think we've heard some really great discussion here tonight, and I think we'll see where we all land on this when we do call the vote. But a couple points. If the vote is no, I think Mr. Jones pointed out specifically, we go back to the drawing board. So it's not that it's no or nothing. It's no, or we come back and we discuss it more. We've learned, as Ms. Wethel points out, we've had some discussion, we figure out some more things about this. We come back and we talk about it again and say, okay, we didn't want this. What do we want? We want something else instead? Do we want what we have now? I think we get that opportunity again if the vote is no, but that's the point that everybody gets to make as we as a community make this argument. And then finally, I guess what I would say is if we don't go big now and go for the scenario 4, we lose that opportunity entirely. We don't get to come back and say, let's go bigger. I think we need to take that opportunity now. And I think we need to look at the possibility that private investors may step up. We need to give that discussion a chance to play out and see where we land by the time that this comes to a referendum in March. And I will plan at this point to vote for that, as the motion is to receive and file and concur with the Five Flags Civic Center Commission to set a referendum date in March of 2023. So that is the current motion on the table.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Might we add or refer to staff to go with that?
Okay. So receive and file, concur, set a referendum date, March of 23, and refer to staff for further
Preparation of the resolution, the ballot
preparation
language.
of the resolution. Okay.
That's exactly what I meant to move.
Okay. That is what Mr. Jones meant to move. Ms. Roussel seconded. Do you still second that? Okay. Do you have any further discussion? All right. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Jones?
Aye.
Farber?
Aye.
Resnick?
No.
Kavanaugh?
Aye.
Wethel? Roussel?
Aye.
Sprague?
No.
That motion passes 5-2. Thank you, everyone, for a very good discussion, and thank you, everyone, who was here to provide input to us. So with that, we will move on.
Action item number 3 is 2022 Ken Kringle Awards presentation.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Mr. Resnick.
I move to receive and file and hear the presentation.
Second.
All right. Mr. Resnick motioned, Ms. Roussel seconded. So we will hear the presentation. And Chris, don't forget that does lower the whole thing, the whole desk. I know I can just see your eyes there.
Right face, yes.
There you go. So much nicer, isn't it? Yeah.
So thank you, Mayor Kavanaugh, City Council. My name is Chris Chris Happ Olson, and I'm an assistant planner, and I have the pleasure of serving as staff for the Historic Preservation Commission. It's Preservation Month, so we're very excited about being able to celebrate. And on behalf of the Historic Preservation Commission, we're presenting 5 projects forward for the Ken Kringle Awards. The awards are created by the Historic Preservation Commission in 2002. It's awarded annually during Architecture Days to highlight the best rehabilitation and restoration projects in the city of Dubuque. We celebrate with our partners at Dubuque Main Street and the Dubuque County Historical Society, as well as the awardees. The awards spotlight the people and projects that, there we go. They spotlight the people and projects that are helping preserve Dubuque's history and share it with others. I'm here with Historic Preservation Commission Chair Bill Doyle, and Bill is going to tell you about our awardees.
Hey guys, you might remember me from earlier. So the Ken Kringle Awards will be presented tomorrow night at the Five Flags Theater at 6 p.m. The event's open to the public. Ken Kringle, as you may know, was a member and past chairperson of the Historic Preservation Commission. He was president of the Bluff Street Neighborhood Association, a resident of the Cathedral Historic District, and a member of the Old House Enthusiast Club. So we can take a look at our awards for this year. The first project that will receive an award is the Mount Calvary Cemetery, and the award would go to Diego Velez. It's really exciting to start with a project like the Mount Calvary Cemetery. The Cemetery Association took a meticulous restoration of numerous projects across the cemetery. They called on a master conservator named Diego Velez. He was really a true Renaissance man. He repaired, restored, rebuilt, repointed, and reinstalled a variety of historic monuments important to the cemetery. This project's been going on for 6 years, and this is kind of the conclusion of the work. Some of the things that were restored were the St. Michael Shrine, Stations of the Cross, the Johannes Chapel, the Mount Calvary Sculpture Group of Jesus on the Cross, and a number of other important statues. Really impressive work. Last of a dying breed of craftspeople there. So really awesome to honor Diego for that, restoring that community treasure. The second project we're going to award is the Dupaco Voices Community Credit Union, or the Dupaco Voices Building / Dupaco Community Credit Union at 1100 Jackson Street. Dupaco Voices Building, that project began in January 2019. The Dupaco purchased the 1925 car Ryder Adams factory for redevelopment into a 174,670 square foot home for their 200 employees and their operations. Includes lease space on the first and second floors. Cost of project after development incentives was $25 million. The project received support from the City of Dubuque's Economic Development Department in the forms of $3 million tax increment financing, $35,000 in facade grants. The special features of the project include 250 replaced window panels, replaced roof, which allowed for a new roof monitor and roof deck spaces, a grand staircase, which is made partially from reclaimed lumber from flex steel. The complicated project has a huge impact on the historic millwork district downtown and Dubuque. There's the staircase. So that one will be is completed, and it's really pretty amazing. The third project is for Steeple Square Church, and this project's really for the stained glass restoration, which has been recently completed. So, as you know, the St. Mary's Church was built in 1864, decommissioned in 2010. The new Steeple Square organization took on restoring over 50 stained glass windows, most of which were installed between 1913 and 1916. The windows were fabricated by FX Zettler, a company based in Munich, Germany. So the unusual approach engaged the School of the Art Institute of Chicago for the first 2 large windows, inviting 3 Chicago firms specializing in stained glass. Steeple Square developed a relationship with Radina Glass Studio of Aurora and created a workshop the next year for local artists and artisans. The studio started in the church and later moved to the Key City Creative Center, local Dubuque business, and helped develop specialized capacity here in Dubuque. It's recently finished by a group of people, but notably Tim Olson and Adam Schwiniger, who are excellent craftspeople who learned it recently from the ground up. Rehabilitation and restoration of the structure wouldn't have been possible without support through the city's Economic Development Department. That project received about $175,000 in tax increment financing and $35,000 in facade grants. It's a multifaceted community partnership that included 4 mounds, Heritage Works, and many contractors and artisans. Here's some cool photos of the restoration in progress. Another of the stained glass windows. And that's Tim up there replacing one of them. And the 4th project is for a guy named Dwayne Haggerty. I don't know if you guys know who that is. He's my boss. He's at 1100 Main Street. This is an 1876 structure. It's on the southernmost row house of that row. It's by Jubex and Oolong down there on 11th and Main. It's the southernmost row house. The 6th Second Empire row house is the Bissell block. Building's undergone updates over the last few years. Dwayne's done a lot of the work himself, but he's done updates to the electrical wiring, plumbing, and HVAC, along with modernizing the interior. He's restored doors, millwork, staircase, the banister, 2 marble fireplaces, and he restored all of his wooden window sashes, which is a ton of work. The goal of restoration was to maintain existing historic features and update the kitchen and bathrooms. Dwayne received help on the exterior from various local companies and craftspeople. Here's a little before and after of Dwayne's project. You can see his kind of oriel window there that's on 11th Street, and his parlor and his front door, which he did some of by hand, and that stained glass window he also had made by a local craftsperson. Our last project, it's actually Mike Gibson. We don't usually award people, but we figured we'd break the rules a little bit for Mike. We've given him a Lifetime Achievement Award. For 37 years, Mike Gibson served as a leader and builder of the Center for Dubuque History at Loras College. I came to the Iowa State Historic Society in Iowa City in 1973 after graduating from Idaho State University with a history degree. It says "Go Bengals" here in parentheses. Chris wrote this, not me. So here we got our before and afters here. Baby Mike. Mike moved with his wife Terry to Dubuque in 1981 to take a part-time archivist position at the Center for Dubuque History at Loras College. In 1987, Mike and Terry purchased their historic home on Grandview Avenue, for which they received a preservation award. Mike really helped build the Center for Dubuque History into the resource it is today. It's a really incredible collection of books, postcards, letters, artworks, prints, objects, city council records, newsletters, an amazing photograph collection, and even manuscripts that date back as far as the 12th century. Mike partnered with the city to make accessible city council proceedings dating to 1837, the earliest municipal records in what would become the state of Iowa. Mike supported so many organizations in Dubuque, including me and my own organization, but he's most proud of his work with Loras students, mentoring dozens of interns over the years. Post-retirement, yeah, I talked to Mike and he's like, yeah, I'm still going back there, volunteering a lot of my time. So in a 1998 interview with Telegraph Herald, Mike said, I have the best job in Dubuque. And it's clear when you talk to Mike, he's such a great guy. He really believes that, really believes in Dubuque. So thank you all on behalf of the Historic Preservation Commission. We just want to thank the owners, craftspeople, contractors, architects, engineers, fundraisers, all the other nonprofits, the city staff and grant programs and donors help make these projects possible. And for Mike for existing, I guess. We appreciate the support of preservation by the City Council and the City of Dubuque. It's only through this kind of work and partnership that we can continue to restore these structures and to honor Dubuque's past and future. Thank you all.
Well, thank you for being here for the presentation. It's just, so much great work by so many people who care so deeply about our history, but our future at the exact same time. It seems like we really are on that page, and I so appreciate that. Any other discussion or?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Ms. Wethel.
So I have to say that Diego Velez is an amazing restorer, but he in his own right is an amazing artist. And if you are not familiar with his work, we are very fortunate to have him in our community. The view from the rooftop of DePaco is one of the most beautiful scenes in Dubuque. And I have to say that DePaco not only has taken a building that has transformed a neighborhood and our downtown, but it has absolutely changed its ability to attract workforce. And it is an example in our community of if you invest in our history, the employees will come and they will work hard for you. And so I salute them as well as all of the nominees. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wethel. All right, well, thank you again for being here. We really appreciate it, and encourage people to head out to the awards tomorrow night, right?
Yeah, tomorrow night.
At Five Flags, ironically, something we've been talking about a little bit.
You've heard of it.
Yeah, maybe you've heard of it, exactly. All right, Adrian, the motion is to receive and file and hear the presentation, so would you call the roll, please?
Jones.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Passes 7-0.
Action item number 4 is Recreation Division Seasonal Staffing Wage Recommendation.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Resnick.
I move to receive and file and approve.
Second by Sprank.
Motion by Resnick, second by Sprank. Mike, please.
Thank you. City Manager Mike Van Milligan. Leisure Services Manager Marie Ware is recommending wage increases for lifeguards, pool managers, and playground after-school staff. As programs and services began to bounce back from the pandemic in the summer of 2021, the recruitment and hiring of staff was a major challenge. This challenge was not just seen within the Leisure Services Department, but nationally. This shortage in staff resulted in the altered operations of Dubuque's pools, the marina, and several programs. It also resulted in full-time supervisory staff doing everything they could to fill gaps so that the community wouldn't see an even greater reduction in services. For several of the staff, this meant consistent coverage on nights and weekends, managing facilities and programs, lifeguarding, officiating, and more. Last summer was exhausting for the Leisure Services Department. As the community and staff continue to become more comfortable with the times we are living in, there was hope that this summer would start to look a little more normal with our staffing numbers. With a positive look to the 2022 summer season, staff began working with the Human Resources Department starting in October of 2021 to review processes that would improve the next summer's recruitment season. Staff began finding ways and planning for how to remove any barriers that might prevent people from applying. This includes, but is not limited to, offering free training programs over the winter months, starting the recruitment process as early as December, offering the increased wages approved for the prior year. With the help of the Human Resources Department, staff started to recruit for the 2022 summer season in December of 2021. There are 20 seasonal job postings listed on the city website for the Recreation Division. To advertise and recruit for these positions, staff have reached out directly to over 85 contacts, including partner organizations, neighborhood groups, coaches, school administrators, local universities, and so on. The Park and Recreation Commission members have been helping to recruit through their contacts. With the help of the Public Information Office, over 20 social media posts have been created and continue to reach thousands of community members. For example, in February, there was a lifeguard post that was seen by over 4,000 people. Each of these 20 job postings have a minimum number of staff required to effectively and equitably operate those programs and services. These minimum requirements total 120 employees. Pre-COVID, this number was around 200 employees. As of April 28, 2022, staff have received 140 applications. Of these 140 applications, 73 have been interviewed, and the remaining 67 have either been unresponsive to interview requests, have turned down an interview, or withdrew or denied due to the vaccination requirement. Of the candidates who have completed the interview process, 66 have moved on to be hired for their positions. Based on the total minimum staff needed, these 66 potential employees represent only 55% of the needed workforce. Included in the minimum number of 120 employees needed for our programs and services, 30 represent our lifeguard needs. There are currently 43 lifeguard applicants who have all been contacted for interviews. Of these 43 applicants, 24 are in the process of being hired and trained, with the remaining 23 either being unresponsive or withdrawing. Based on Iowa State codes, as well as our experience from last summer with limited staffing, at maximum capacity, Flora Pool must have a minimum of 20 lifeguards on duty per shift. To ensure safe coverage, we operate with 23 lifeguards per shift. Factoring in the need for substitutes, staff availability during the week, and the range of schedules when many staff return to school, we will need 30 to 35 staff dedicated to Flora Pool to prevent burnout. In order to staff Sutton Pool, the number of staff needed is slightly reduced due to its size. However, staff would need to onboard and train an additional 25 lifeguards and potentially 2 more managers in order to safely open Sutton Pool. The Leisure Services Department has been working with Strategic Workforce Equity Coordinator Keisha Doherty over the last year on the current wages and how they compare to like positions. The greatest immediate need for a staffing increase is in lifeguards and playgrounds and after-school program. This need is not only for this season, but to also build back up the retention numbers for future seasons. The highest average wage for a lifeguard in Iowa, based on the 38 reporting cities, is $11.15. Iowa City currently pays the highest wage in the state at $15.50 per hour. In Dubuque, the lifeguard wage was increased to $12.50 last season. The playground leaders and after-school staff are currently making up to $10.72 per hour. Although their job skills and training are vastly different than that of a lifeguard, their direct impact on the youth served throughout the year is extremely important. Not only do we need people to fill these positions, but we need motivated and passionate individuals who want to work directly with the youth. Staff is recommending hourly wage increases for lifeguards at $15 for first-year guards, $17 for returning lifeguards, and $20 for pool managers, with an estimated impact to the budget of up to $60,781. In addition, staff is recommending an hourly wage increase for our playground and after-school program staff at $14 for first-year applicants and $16 for returning staff, with an estimated impact to the budget of $75,162. The total $135,943 increase would be offset by $45,938 from savings of only opening one pool, and the remaining $90,005 would be from utility franchise fee revenues. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request Mayor and City Council approval subject to a future budget amendment.
Thank you, Mike. Discussion.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Resnick.
Yes, I think it's good to note that you can have a fantastic $1 million pool, but if you don't have good lifeguards, people can't use it. We have wonderful buses. Some of those cost, $500,000 and more. If you don't have good bus drivers, we're not going to run them. And same thing with the library, most beautiful library in the state. If you don't have library aides putting books back, then it's going to be a mess, and we're just going to have to cut down hours, et cetera. So, we can't have tip jars at these places like they do at the restaurants, but you can absolutely thank these people who make all of these these wonderful amenities possible. Our young people and our bus drivers, our lifeguards, our library aides, they really make things happen in so many areas. So I'm going to fully support this tonight. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Sprank first, then Mr. Jones.
Okay. I've had a number of neighbors call me about Sutton, and I've basically explained to them, we need more lifeguards. And hopefully this is a way to attract more lifeguards. I can't promise it's gonna be, because we're also running into a deadline of getting the new lifeguards trained, getting the pool up and running. It may not be possible, but unfortunately, I want to see more lifeguards. I want to be able to use Sutton Pool. We just may not be able to unless we can get more lifeguards. So hopefully this is a good step in the right direction for that. Thank you.
Mr. Jones.
Well, I hope this works. I don't know if it's enough to make it work. In the 2000s, the lifeguard curriculum was revamped nationwide by Red Cross, and the certification of lifeguard started to include some skills and procedures formerly reserved for healthcare professionals, which brought lifeguards into the healthcare professions, in my view. And they're among the poorest paid healthcare providers in North America, with some of the highest life and death responsibilities that you can have in healthcare. So I would support a much higher distinctive wage for those folks. Some of them grow up to be pretty good paramedics, fire commanders, and other things, because it's a start in the helping professions. But it's a whole different thing than it was when you needed some swimming skills and a whistle to be a lifeguard. And we'll train you. Step on up. It's a lot of fun. It makes builds some character. It's a great piece on your resume. I hope people step up. I'm not sure this is enough to get them there.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Well, I agree. I think it's a step in the right direction. I want to thank the city staff who've worked so hard on this particular issue. The pools have been such a challenge. I think it was a surprise for a lot of us on how challenging it has been over the last 2 years, but it really has. And it's not just us. It's all over the country. I think it's a really important point to point out. It is not just us. This is all over the country. And that is pretty good evidence to me that it's not just something that the city of Dubuque is doing. I've had phone calls about the vaccination requirement for new employees. I've had phone calls about other things. It's not just about what we're doing here. It is about a national challenge that is really, hopefully, we're just playing catch up and now actually getting to a wage that is more commensurate with what people deserve and what they need for this job. So any other, yeah, Mike.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yep.
The only thing I would add to the discussion is I am working with the Jewel, where we're hoping to design, and this is assuming for a moment that we're not able to open Sutton Pool, which we all hope we will be able to. We're working to design a continuous loop shuttle that would go from Sutton Pool to Flora Pool on a 30 to 45-minute schedule. So if people who lived in the neighborhood and didn't have transportation could show up at Sutton Pool, and they would end up at Flora Pool and be able to have their swimming experience.
It's great to know. Thank you very much for adding that to the discussion. Yeah, Mr. Sprank.
I'm going to jab at you just a little bit. This is one more reason that we need to get Comiskey going. I know it's in the works, but it would have been great to have a splash pad this summer without Sutton. But I know it's in the works, so we need to get Comiskey going. So that's all.
So
I know we are.
Any delays related to Comiskey Park have nothing to do with city staff. So we've gotten all these great grants to do that project, and so that's exciting that the taxpayers don't have to pay so much of it. But those grants come with all kinds of requirements, as our environmental assessments and all those things. And we have to meet those timetables dictated to us, and we have no choice if we want to accept those grants, and I believe that we do. So we're going to do everything we can to get that project moving along within the confines of the restrictions that we're under.
Thank you. A lot of good information in this particular agenda item tonight. Good learning going on here. All right, so the motion is to receive and file and approve the city manager's recommendation. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Jones.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Passes 7-0.
Action item number 5 is proposed ordinance amendments for grass weed addendum.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Jones.
I move to receive and file the communications and further move that the requirement that a proposed ordinance be considered and voted on for passage at 2 council meetings prior to the meeting at which it is to be finally passed be suspended.
Second?
Motion by Mr. Jones, second by Mr. Resnick. Mike, please.
Thank you. City Manager Mike Van Milligan. Housing and Community Development Director Alexis Stager is recommending City Council adopt the proposed ordinance amendments for Section 3024 of Title 14, Chapter 2 to reflect the current processes and procedures in place. Current Iowa landlord-tenant law allows tenants to accept responsibility for some maintenance of the property if it is clearly defined in the lease agreement. The change to the ordinance does not change this law. The city ordinance, as proposed in the amendment, will allow the landlord to supply the lease agreement to the code official to determine who is responsible for grass weed maintenance if an issue shall arise. If the landlord does not provide the lease agreement within 5 days of a notice of violation that is sent by certified mail, the maintenance responsibility defaults to the landlord. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request mayor and city council approval.
Thank you, Mike. Any discussion? Seeing none. Okay. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Jones.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Passes 7-0.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Jones.
I move final consideration and passage of the ordinance.
Second?
Motion by Jones, second by Resnick. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Jones.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Resnick. Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Sprank.
Motion passes 7-0.
Action item number 6 is Mystique Community Ice Center Rink Ice System Removal and Replacement Project Award Public Improvement Construction Contract.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Roussel.
I move to receive and file and adopt the resolution.
Second?
By Sprank.
Motion by Roussel, second by Resnick. Mike, please.
Thank you. City Manager Mike Van Milligan. Assistant City Engineer Bob Schissel is recommending City Council award the public improvement construction contract for the Mystique Ice Center Rink Ice System Removal and Replacement Project to Rink Tech International in the amount of $720,950 through adoption of the resolution. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request mayor and city council approval.
Thank you, Mike. Any discussion? Seeing none. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Jones.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Roussel. Sprank.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Action item number 7 is Stoneman Road Reconstruction Project Award Construction Contract.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Jones.
I move to receive and file the documents and adopt the resolution.
Second by Sprank.
Motion by Jones, second by Sprank. Mike, please.
Thank you. City Manager Mike Van Milligan. City Engineer Gus Zahoyas is recommending City Council award the construction contract for the Stoneman Road Reconstruction Project through the adoption of a resolution to McDermott Excavating in the amount of $991,650.35. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request mayor and city council approval.
Thank you, Mike. Any discussion? Seeing none. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Jones.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Action item number 8 is Northwest Arterial State of Good Repair Project, U.S. Highway 20 to John F. Kennedy Road, concurrence and award of public improvement contract.
Mr. Mayor,
Jones.
I move to receive and file the documents and adopt the resolution.
Second?
Motion by Jones, second by Resnick. Mike, please.
Thank you. City Manager Mike Van Milligan. Assistant City Engineer Bob Schissel is recommending City Council adopt a resolution to concur with the Butte County Board of Supervisors awarding the public improvement contract for the Improving the Northwest Arterial John Deere Road Corridor for Freight Mobility Project to Perk Tobin Construction in the amount of $14,416,742.87, subject to Dubuque County and the Iowa Department of Transportation concurrence and approval of award. Dubuque County was awarded a federal build grant to make capacity and safety improvements to John Deere Road. The Northwest Arterial State of Good Repair Project was added to the build grant project because it is a critical freight route that connects to South John Deere Road. The Northwest Arterial State of Good Repair Project will provide the non-federal local match to the Dubuque County build grant. Effective January 29, 2021, the TOJ, or transfer of jurisdiction, of the Northwest Arterial was completed from the state of Iowa to the city of Dubuque as part of the Southwest Arterial project. As part of the roadway transfer, the Iowa Department of Transportation has issued a state of good repair payment to the city of Dubuque in the amount of $5,672,000 to complete pavement rehabilitation and reconstruction of the Northwest Arterial from US 20 to Central Avenue, or Iowa Highway 3. The project work limits for the Northwest Arterial State of Good Repair will be from US 20 to John F. Kennedy Road. It will include pavement rehabilitation of the southbound lanes, reconstruction of the northbound lanes, and the reconstruction of both the Pennsylvania Avenue and Asbury Road intersections. In August 2019, the city was awarded an Iowa Department of Transportation Traffic Safety Improvement Program grant to assist with the construction to extend the existing eastbound left turn lane on Northwest Arterial at John F. Kennedy Road. The Northwest Arterial State of Good Repair project will include this left turn lane improvement that will extend the existing eastbound Northwest Arterial dedicated left turn lane onto John F. Kennedy Road to an approximate 400-foot storage length. The Northwest Arterial State of Good Repair project was packaged and bid as part of the Dubuque County's John Deere Road Build Project, which was let on April 19, 2022, through the Iowa Department of Transportation in Ames, Iowa. The city portion of the overall project, the Northwest Arterial project, accounts for $8,541,861.54 of the overall $14,416,742.87 bid, which is 4.5% higher than estimate of probable cost. The increased costs correlate with the overall price increases nationwide for materials, labor, and equipment, with the most significant increases being related to items impacted by high oil and fuel prices. The Iowa Department of Transportation Price Trend Index for Iowa highway construction documents an overall 31.8% increase in bid prices received in the first quarter of 2022 when compared to the average prices seen throughout 2021. To cover the additional project costs, staff is proposing to increase the DMATS STBG swap funding allocation by an additional $400,000. The additional swap funding will come from anticipated savings from the North Cascade Road Reconstruction Phase 1 project. Once the North Cascade Road Reconstruction project is closed out, the remaining balance of swap funding will be reprogrammed through the DMATS STIP and transferred to the Northwest Arterial project. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request Mayor and City Council approval.
Thank you, Mike. Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Mr. Sprague.
Thank you. Question for Gus or Bob. Is this company fully aware of the whole scope of work and the timeline and everything? I'm assuming they would be since they bid it. But
Yeah, Bob Shizzle, Assistant City Engineer. All the timeline requirements and everything are in the contract documents.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, Mr. Resnick.
Thank you. I just want to say, look at the reading and then Mr. Van Milligan's memo really highlights what a complicated package this is. We're working with the county with so many so many other businesses, and I appreciate you putting this all together. And I'm glad that we're able to transfer some funding, hopefully after the one project is all buttoned up. So thank you for your good work too. I'm sure you were part of all of this, working together, and good partners are so important to us. So thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. We have a good team.
Any others? All right. Well, thank you, Bob, for being here and for providing some comments. Motion is to receive and file and adopt the resolution. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Jones.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Sprank.
Passes 7-0.
Next are council member reports.
Any reports?
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Resnick?
I briefly want to say that the city council got their hands and feet and everything dirty and wet the other day, helping out in our wonderful Days of Caring. And I just, a word to the wise, don't mess with Susan Farber about anything. She is an effective advocate for her position, whatever that is, in many ways. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
We did have a good time. Yeah, Ms. Farber.
Mr. Mayor, may I comment?
Yes, absolutely.
That's only because I made him shovel the mulch and put it into the wagon.
Effectively convinced him to do so. Thank you, Ms. Farber. Yeah, we did. The Days of Caring is such a great event, and I want to thank Assistant City Manager Corey Burbach for organizing that and being on the board there. And we really did. It was a wonderful opportunity to be able to help out the National Mississippi River Museum and Aquarium. All right. Well, there being no more council member reports, I see we have a closed session, so I'll entertain a
Mayor.
motion. Yeah, Mr. Jones.
Move that the council go into closed session in accordance with Chapter 21.5 of the Code of Iowa to discuss pending real estate transactions.
Second?
All right, a motion by Mr. Jones, a second by Mr. Resnick. And for the record, the attorney the city council will consult with on the issues to be discussed in closed session is the city attorney, Krenna Brumwell. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Jones.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
We pass at 7-0. We are in closed session.